Hello, everybody. Pop Culture Curator here. So good to see you all. I know we missed a week or two since our last horror sci-fi stream, which was Scanners, and tonight we are covering the Blob. We are obviously within the month of October, so each Tuesday night we're going to be covering a horror movie. And I know this is a horror sci-fi stream, but this, like I said, this is Halloween. So tonight we're going to be doing the Blob. We will be having voting open this week on titles because they're already pre-selected for Halloween. So tonight's the Blob, and the next Tuesday we're going to be covering Jurassic Park. And I apologize, my peaches, I just fed them.
Yeah, Jurassic Park. Excited for that.
And I have one little fun tidbit when we get to that one.
Oh, exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed your Poltergeist stream where your guest was in the movie. Do you remember?
No, that's this Sunday. That's next Sunday.
Oh, next Sunday. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, she said she wants to be in P3.
All right, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. I know some of you guys were early. I really appreciate that. And looks like Nemesis Of Edens says we will see all of you beautiful beings at 7:30. Nemesis time. Lemon Pie says, "Hey, Pop." Nemesis, hello, Lemon Pie. So good to see you. Lemon Pie says the Blob. That's what Doctor calls me after my last weigh-in. Rim shot.
Well, Scurvy, you said it.
Hey-o.
Edge of Time says, greetings from the Edge of Time. Good to see you, Edge of Time there. Hello, LDG. Good to see you too. LDG says showtime.
Hey, Pickles.
Hey-o.
Hey, Lemon says Nemesis Of Eden. Hey there, LDG.
Hey-o.
And hello there, Edge. Oops,
Hello.
I need to read my own. Hello, Suzanne. So good to see you. Suzanne says hello, Pop. And she also says hello to LDG and Nemesis and Edge of Time and Lemon Pie.
Hello, Suzanne. Don't forget to help out Suzanne if you guys can. There's a link that I'm sure someone will be able to drop. I'm unfortunately not able to this time.
So, did it show up last night during our stream?
It did, but I'm not able to access the chat because I'm using my phone to do.
Scurvy can probably cover it.
Right, but
Scurvy's got it.
I'm wondering if it's in my StreamYard's Stream Elements bots. I want to make sure that this posts automatically. And Lemon Pie says hello, Suzanne. Suzanne says Gorilla, hello.
Hey there,
Hello,
Suzanne.
Mr. CCGV says, oh, hi, Pop.
Yeah.
Hello,
Hey,
Mr. CCGV.
Hey-o.
Lemon Pie says, hey, Gorilla. And
Hey,
Suzanne
Scurvy.
says, hey, Mr. CCTV, hello. Oh, these dogs. Mr. CCTV says, my mom introduced me to the Blob back in 1984, right before the remake, which we'll be covering here in a few weeks. Hello, Jim. Good to see you. And Jim says, hello, Lemon Pie. Drops the link. There is the link there for Suzanne. If you're able to, help her out any way you can. She's having a rough time. She's a single grandmother raising her grandson. And any little anybody could donate is highly appreciated. She's a very sweet person and very deserving.
Indeed. Thanks, Lemon.
And Suzanne says, Scurvy got it. And
Yes,
Jim
someone finally called him that. Yes, I'm rubbing off on people.
says,
Oh, bro, phrasing.
Hail, Suzanne
Hey,
and Lemon.
I phrase it how I intend it.
Oh, that's okay, fair enough.
Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Good to see you, Daniel. Glad you could join us. Daniel's Hot Topic says, hi, Papa Gorilla. How are you tonight? I know I'm doing
Hey,
much
I'm
better
doing
than I
good.
was last week.
I got blocked on Twitter, and I had a situation today. I didn't know how to react. You ever have one of those situations you don't know how to react?
Yes.
We went out some popcorn and all that in there, and we went to go sell, and it happened to be the chief of police for this town here, and he's like, no, I don't want any popcorn, and the neighbor just blew up on him, going, hey, you're the chief of police. It is your duty to sit there and help support all these organizations. So you buy some fucking popcorn right now. And he actually bought some.
You got called out. Amazing. Wow. Like the audacity of that neighbor too. Just like, can you imagine?
I did not know how to react to that.
Well, I up, I'd say, okay, I'll donate it at the same time just to keep there. I'm going to give you a ticket for disturbing the peace. LD, wait a second. Are you telling me Gorilla actually seen this?
Yeah, as of 9 o'clock this morning. Or no, wait, 10:30 this morning.
Oh, cool. You didn't have to work today?
No, I did.
Okay.
I propped my phone up right up against the parts right in front of me.
Nice.
Gotcha. And Suzanne says, thanks, Lemon Pie. Lemon Pie says, hey, Jim, Daniel, LDG, CCTV. And Resolute Germ says, hello.
Yeah.
Check out Jim's channel. There's a link for Jim's channel. Thank you for putting that in there, Suzanne.
Yeah.
I don't know if my stream element's about is going to work tonight. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. So.
And hello, Jim. Hello, Jim.
Germ, hello. And Jim drops a link to a video. LDG says, sup, Germs. And Suzanne drops a link to Resolute Germ's channel. And Jim says, hail, LDG. Lemon Pie says, technically, it's scurvy preventer. Scurvy for short, LOL.
This is true. This is very true.
And Suzanne, thank you, Suzanne. She drops a link for Nemesis of Edens channel.
Thanks, Suzanne. You rock.
Yeah, I need to see what's going on in my stream element spot. Resolute Germ, and he works with power tools people. And Lemon Pie says, Germ, hello. So, also, how are you guys doing on the panel tonight? I'd like to say welcome to Gorillas Random Thoughts and Nemesis of Eden. How are you all doing?
I'm doing good. There's only one reason I'm here.
I'm ready to irradiate your existing brain cells.
Oh, I don't know if you were able to hear that.
Oh, we heard it. We heard it. Yeah, it's good old lore. And I am also doing well, Pop. It's always happy to be here with you. And hello to the chat, to everyone, in case I missed anyone. Hello, all. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And if you haven't, sub to my channel and Pop Cultures, of course, and Gorillas for all manner of different stuff.
No, thank you, Nemesis. I appreciate that.
Which reminds me, I have to make a disclaimer thing for my channel. Which I'm going to see if I can get Pickles to help me with that.
Are you talking about for copyright warnings?
No, for just letting people know my streams are rated R. Because you never know what's going to come.
Not for kids.
You could put it in the title.
No. I just a little video thing. I was thinking of doing. Alrighty.
Okay. Just be careful because I was going to make a video of my disclaimer. And I was thinking that I think if you play that too many times, people might tune out.
Well,
so be careful on overusing it.
No, it'd just be at the beginning of the streams. It'd just be at the beginning.
Yeah, right. That's the worst part for people to tune out. But that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying be careful because you might have people tuning out at the beginning of your streams, which is not a good thing. I'm just saying be careful, keep it short. But that's why I chose not to have. I even made the whole video disclaimer and everything. It was about 20 seconds, I guess. But I just knew that if I play it on a regular basis, people are going to tune out. So that's why I decided not to use it. So just be careful with it. Don't overuse it. All right. Let's see. Tonight we're going to be doing the Blob from 1958. I've got it all queued up and ready, and hopefully I've got the subtitles ready to go. I know we're already 30 minutes overdue here.
All right. I'll finish catch up on the chat here.
Appreciate it.
Jim says, hail, Germ. Then Suzanne puts the link in for my channel there. If you guys want to see an old Bonnie and Clyde getaway car, I got a short on my channel. If you guys want to check that out there.
I have to ask, what kind of phone do you have?
I got a Galaxy S53.
Do you have a video editor?
No.
Okay. There seem to be some sound issues with that phone.
Yeah, I had to update the app. It's the issue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Scurvy says, what's up to Scurvy? Gorilla, I give up. Heart. I forgot everything else. And here's Mr. CCDV's channel. And Jerv says, I think Gorilla already raided his own brain cells. He's moving it out the rest of us. Well, someone has to. Here is Oil Stream Elements Oil Greg's channel. Says, did I miss anyone in chat for channel shoutouts? I'm not quite sure. Scurvy says, we try not to have shootouts here, but shoutouts are good.
Yeah, I feel bad. You shouldn't have to. That's what Stream Elements is all about. I need to go in and check and see what's going on with that.
Well, it just did one. It did Oil Greg's.
Maybe it's a little slow tonight.
Yeah. I'll bite my tongue on that one. Mr. CCTV says, it's an apple series here in northern Arizona. I'm going to have an apple bake this weekend. Stay tuned for the video. Cool. And Suzanne says, scurvy. LOL. I got pew-pews on the brain. LOL. She says hi to Daniel. And said, Pop, that's a mod's job. LOL. So already, we ready to go?
Yes, I was waiting for you to finish.
Okay.
All right. We get it popped up here. Here we go. Now remember, this is the original Blob from 1958, starring Steve McQueen in one of his very first roles. In fact, you'll see the credits. It's called Stephen McQueen. He changed that really quick after the movie came out. He was not fond of the movie. He was afraid that he was going to be typecast, but he wasn't, because this is actually the movie that got him discovered. He had a short-lived TV series, a Western, that he was doing. And then eventually, as we all know, or at least most of us know, he got pulled into Hollywood. And he was a very successful movie star until his untimely age. He was relatively young. He wasn't that old. And I'll be covering a lot more trivia on that tonight. And as usual, there's no audio, everybody, because I'm hoping not to get a copyright strike from Paramount or whoever currently owns this. And we get the famous Blob title and Blob song.
I wish we could play the song.
I know, I wish I could. But just like Gilligan's Island, I wish I could play the theme. But unfortunately, we can't take the chance. And the theme was co-written by Burt Bacharach, who just passed away last month. I believe it was last month. And this was filmed in a small town, which I'll be covering more details on earlier also as well. And as you can see on the credits, or the subtitles on the bottom, the lyrics to the song, which the thing is when the movie came out, they weren't expecting it to be as successful as it was. So it was highly successful, and even the song, which they kind of rushed together at the last minute to put the song together, made it a hit, number one at the box office, Billboard charts. Sorry, not the box office, Billboard charts. The movie did do well, but the song was a surprise for everyone. Steve McQueen was offered to share either a certain amount of money or a share of the profits. He didn't think the movie was going to do well, so he took the money. And much to his dismay, he found out he should have taken a percentage of the profits because the movie was so successful. It also spurred two sequels, Return of the Blob and Son of the Blob, which were mediocre, more on the comedy side, very low budget. And then a complete remake, straight-up remake in 30 years later, in 1988, directed by Frank Darabont, which is a really good movie, and we will be covering that in the future.
It's the superior Blob, in my opinion.
Well, the special effects were better. So just like The Fly, the better the special effects get, the better the movie's going to get. And according to rumors, I don't know if this is true, but according to rumors, Steve McQueen had the poster of this film on his bedroom wall at the time of his death.
Hey, I got a question. Why does the color look so weird in this, like in these 50s movies?
Because they wanted all right, color film was not new. It was around, obviously, since the 1930s. But they really saturated color because they wanted it to stand out. So you can dial the color up and down. You can make it more colorful. You can make it less colorful. And they wanted, obviously, the color to really pop out for the Blob effect. And we'll cover more on the making of the Blob and what that's made out of. but they wanted that bright red color to really stand out for the audience.
Okay.
And also, they were in the 50s. They when they could afford movies were more expensive to shoot in color at the time. They were cheaper to produce in black and white. So when a movie was made in color, they really wanted to show off all those colors, the saturation. So there's a lot of movies that were made around the same time where you're going to notice really deep reds, blues, and greens, and things like that, because of it's basically showing off that color. And sadly, today it seems like with movies and television, they dial it down. They desaturate it where everything looks gray or like a yellowish color. And in my opinion, it looks absolutely terrible. But practically everything you watch now is desaturated. And I don't know. In my opinion, I don't like it. But that's my opinion. And by the way, the song was sung by one guy. The way they did it is it sounds like a group. And that's the way it was marketed. But it was actually one guy who looped his voice 5 times. So that's the reason why it sounds the way it does. That's why he sounds like Phil Collins. I'll put it that way. That's why I was never a fan of Phil Collins. I didn't like the re-looping and the auto-tune that he used. Nice opening title sequence. Now here we have Steve McQueen and the actress. Of course, I should be ready with the actress's name. But they were both relatively new to Hollywood. And they're playing teenagers in this movie. But Steve McQueen at the time was 28 years old. And he was already a heavy chain smoker. So there's scenes in this movie where you can tell they say action and then he hides his cigarette behind his back. So you'll see sometimes at the very beginning of a scene, you'll see the cigarette smoke. Aneta Corsaut, Corsaut, Corsaut. I think it's pronounced Corsaut. Basically starts Steve McQueen, Aneta Corsaut, Earl Rowe, Olin Howland, and Stephen Chase. And this movie was originally, I apologize for that, released in the summer of 1958, as I previously mentioned. If I don't swing on my dog first.
All right, before we get started here, let's catch up on this. Holy crap, the chat really took off.
Thank you, Gorilla.
Says we try not to have shootouts. Don't worry. Or I already read all that, so. All right, here. So, Apple Bake Classic Evils. Oh, wait, that's Clam Bake. My stream. Yeah, Jim's stream elements is best up too. Suzanne says I drop links in every channel I mod for, lol.
I appreciate that, Suzanne.
She loves the mod. Don't I have you as a mod on my channel, Suzanne? And Mr. CCDB says one of his most famous. So then, Mr. CCDB here said, Scurvy, I just bought a dozen lemons to avert the brown on my apples. Cool. Scurvy says, excellent. Also works on guacamole. This CCDB goes, good point, Scurvy. Mr. CCDB says, alas, I'm allergic to avocado. And he also says, I think, y'all, I'm on my way to the bar. Thanks, y'all. Well, you have a good night there, Mr. CCDB.
Have a great time.
Take care.
All right. That's all the chats.
Okay, so here we have the two teenage couple doing a little bit of kissing and smooching.
Yeah.
When they're talking about a meteor. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, until he says the wrong name.
He calls her the wrong name?
Yeah, he like, her name's like Jenny, ain't it? And he called her like Janice.
Give me just a second. But I'm sure I'll have the names memorized by the time this is over. Her name is Jane in the movie.
Okay, then he called her Jenny there. So, yeah. Big mistake right there. I'm surprised she didn't slap him for that one.
Did it show that in the credits or in the subtitles?
I'm not sure. I didn't have subtitles on, but I was listening. And he called her Jenny.
Oh, well, he hasn't said her name yet. Let's see here. We're talking about a shooting star. I thought you were supposed to wish on shooting stars, but I did. We only saw one. And of course, due to budget constraints, that's why it was off camera. Otherwise, if this had been later on, I'm sure we'd have seen the shooting star. And I would be. What's that?
We did get to see a shooting star in the Waltons. It's a pretty cool effect.
It may have been a stock footage.
Oh,
you don't see him in town. That's why I come up here, he says. So he's talking about clear without the lights. Janey girl is what he calls her. So that's acceptable for Jane.
Yeah, I think it's more the fact that she doesn't like having a nickname.
Okay, I thought maybe you called her like Jamie girl. Like, okay, so I misheard it.
No problem.
Oh.
Yep, you're right, Nemesis. She does not like it.
Yeah.
So I guess they're giving us the impression that these two have just met. This is maybe their first date.
Yeah. Well, she's thinking that he brings all kinds of girls up here. Like the person's gonna admit to that.
Right. Well, I thought that shooting star business wasn't just part of your line. Yeah, she doesn't trust him completely. Hold on a second. I got to throw my phone out the window.
It's all good, buddy.
Yes. Scurvy
See,
here.
like, yeah, what's Scurvy say?
He's too cool to remember her name.
Some girls are like that, though. Like, some are very formal. It's like, no, you can't call me the short version. It's my full name, or it's just this part of my name. Like, and it's not just girls. Everyone. Some people are like that.
Oh, I really wanted to make a comment to this, but I decided to bite my tongue.
Oh, I appreciate it, bro.
It might be pushing it far, even for a horror stream.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to be losing out.
Yeah.
All right.
So I had a hard time. Oh, we good to go, Pop?
Yeah, my phone always starts going off as soon as he start. So I've got to mute it.
It's all good, buddy. No one. It's no worries, really.
A lot of it's YouTube channels, and there's some of these channels I don't even go to visit anymore. I need to turn off the notifications.
Oh, dude, I don't have Twitter. I don't have YouTube notifications turned on, like the actual bell anymore, because like I have so many people. It's just so. It's bad enough that it like flops up on the screen every like 30 seconds. They're like, "What? There's a new." Anyways, carrying on. We've got.
I prefer when people. Let's see, the best way to explain this without upsetting anyone. When people are designing a live stream and they're, like they have certain themes, like like Gorilla does Waltons, and Battlestar 5 or whatever that show's called. I can't remember. Anyway,
Babylon. Anyways,
that's right. That's it. Thank you. I always got it mixed up with. I get whatever Deep Space Nine is. I always get those two mixed up. Anyway, there are channels where people like have they'll have a stream like every Wednesday, every Tuesday, whatever, every Monday. But then there's some channels like the one that I just muted, where they do 5 streams a day, every day, all day long, and they're automated. I used to like the channel, but I don't want an alert from the same channel 5 times a day. Yeah. All I know there's not even a host. What they do is they play public domain stuff. So that's what they do 24 hours a day.
That's where mine there is. I like when people have schedules, like you got a schedule, I got a schedule, except every once in a while it switches a little bit, Then I'm very good at keeping track of time there. So I don't need the notifications on because I know it's getting close to 8 o'clock. I know it pops on, so I got time for this stream. But that always throws me off if people start their streams earlier than they normally do or are scheduled, then it throws my whole schedule off.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I hate to start off with something nitpicking, but do you guys notice anything about this shot right here? I noticed it immediately. I hadn't seen this movie in years, and I watched it last night for the first time in probably at least 2 decades. And God,
And
excuse me a moment.
yeah,
And
it's all good,
I
buddy.
even pushed do not disturb on this damn phone. What the hell?
It's all good, bud. I don't know. I'm trying to see what you're talking about. I don't really. Is it a miniature?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay.
But that is definitely a miniature. I don't know why, but my eye can spot them a mile away. They
Where
the cabin.
Oh, okay.
You're just more trained for it, Pop.
Yeah, I didn't even notice.
There's two. After I spotted it, I wasn't sure. I wanted to make sure, so I looked it up, and they did make 2 different versions. They made the miniature, which is what you see here for the long shot from a distance, and then the close up when you see the old man coming out and the teenagers arriving at the door later on. So I just wanted to point that out. Here we go. Now we're at the actual. That's a set. So between that's a miniature, and that's an actual set.
Yeah.
Okay.
This movie actually uses a lot of miniatures. I'll be pointing them out. Some of them are a little more noticeable than others.
And Scurvy says, I'm not like that. Lemon works or Scurvy. It also says, many of my notifications I have turned on simply don't show up. Yeah. Depends on the app. All right.
Yeah, I do have to go in and keep checking them because sometimes I'll have them selected where I do want notifications and I don't get them. So I have to keep double checking all the time. And this scene right here, I want to point out where this is the old man who heard the meteor, saw it, and decides to go out and investigate with that old lantern. This scene right here has been pretty much, well, I don't know if I should use the word copy, but it has been redone in many, many movies. So, and a lot of them that we're going to be covering on our channel here in the future, including Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
What, just going out and checking things out with a storm lantern?
The old man in the cabin who goes out to investigate the disturbance. A lot of
so this is the start of that trope.
Yes, it is. And
Okay.
I do remember when I was a kid, I don't know why, but I still remember, my memory is quite clear. The very first time I saw this, I know I was under 10, but I laughed so hard when I saw that old man. I thought it was supposed to be funny. I thought it was supposed to be a funny scene. But I didn't quite get it. I guess it was because I was young.
Well, some people find this stuff funny.
And of course, we also saw this in Creepshow.
That's right. He's going to turn into a plant.
Why do people always have the urge of touching freshly landed meteorites that should be thousands of degrees?
Well, not only that, like,
Well, he uses a stick.
the impact crater, there should have been like shockwave. Like, people should have known. Like, that's not a small meteorite, right? There should be a lot more damage. There should be noise. There should have been, anyways.
I guess the hole could have been a little deeper too.
Hey,
Maybe it should have been partially buried.
In Nemesis, Apophis would beg a differ.
What?
Apophis. It's that, was it a half-mile long meteoroid? That if it misses us in 2029, it'll be coming back around in 2036.
Well, let's hope it doesn't miss us the first time. That's not fair.
Oh man, if we want to get into like talking about being in a cosmic shooting gallery, we can, but like we should probably stick to the movie.
Right. And here's where he does poke it with a stick. It's not just the heat you got to worry about too. There could be radiation, so that stick's not going to help you if that thing's radiated.
Oh, what's a little bit extra vitamin D?
Yeah, well, I guess I've been getting hit with massive doses of radiation lately, and I'm still alive, but not exactly better for the wearer. So
Well, radiation's bad for you.
I never heard of good radiation.
Well, if you're not out in the sun there with the ultraviolet radiation, you start lacking in vitamin D, and I can't remember what the health effects of that was.
Well, that's a different type. But like I know the radiation that I'm going through is definitely not the good kind, and it's definitely killing my body. And that's why I've been debating whether I should continue the treatment. I was talking to a friend about that today. I'm having doubts if I'm going to. I'm probably not. So the old man pokes it with a stick. The Blob. It had a few working titles before they came up with the Blob. During production of the movie, it was actually called the Glob, Glob. But then they realized that there was a popular comic book title out at the time, so they changed it to the Blob at the last minute.
I was gonna say, wasn't there a movie called The Glob?
I thought there was. I can look at Internet Movie Database, but not that I remember.
Yeah,
According, let me see what I found in the trivia here. And of course, it's not working right, which is what I expected.
We got new chats we need to catch up on?
I will cover here. The old man's cabin and the Curator were filmed in a soundstage. There were two versions of the cabin built. One was full size for the actors to use. The second version was only about 3 feet high and was used in the background of wide shots to create a false perspective. So that's to be exact. So we saw that cabin, it was only 3 feet tall. And okay, I'm gonna try to. There's a lot of trivia, but I'm gonna try to stick to the per scene. By the way, Steve McQueen. This is what I was talking about earlier. He was offered $2,500 or 10% of the profits. He took the $2,500 because the film wasn't expected to make much. But according to producer Jack Harris, when being interviewed by film historian Tom Weaver, the film ultimately grossed $4 million. Which is extremely successful. And by the way, the producer, Jack H. Harris, also produced the remake in 1988. So they lived long enough so that both movies had the same producer.
So what is that, 40,000? 10% of 4 million?
No, that'd be 400,000, wouldn't it?
400,000, I believe. And that's in 1958, which would be in the millions today. Partially filmed in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. Yeah, it's all the majority of the movie, except for the scenes on a soundstage, were shot in a small town of Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. And I'll be covering more on that later.
Yeah, if he would have taken that 400,000 there, he'd have $4,249,494 and 81 cents.
Which isn't bad at all. I would definitely accepted that. But back then, they were making so many B horror movies. I can see why he didn't think it was going to be as successful as it was. Because that's all they had. But by the way, this movie was also so successful. It started the dating trope, rock and roll monster movie. This was the first one that did that, and it was so successful. That became its own subgenre, and still exists even today. Except the music has changed. So the old man tries to shake the stick to knock the Blob off of the stick. And instead of the Blob falling to the ground, it defies gravity, crawls up the stick, and then immediately engulfs his hand. And of course, immediately he's startled and he notices the pain. And he's trying to take it off his hand and he's unable to. And now just he does that, we have our lovebirds who happen to be stopping by. And they're looking for the meteors. They had seen it earlier.
Yeah.
Wow, those cars are classics.
Now, your lesson for today, kids, is don't be poking things with a stick.
Yeah,
you don't know what it is.
Unless you taste it first. I'm just kidding.
Oh, so were they supposed to be like Bortus and Yaphet there?
I don't know.
When Bortus ate a piece of Yaphet?
And here we have the old man stumbles out into the street. And he's in immense pain, and he's yelling or begging for them to take him to the doctor. They put him in the back seat, and Steve gives him. It's easy to remember Steve McQueen's name in the movie because his name is Steve in the movie as well, so that's easy to remember.
Yeah. And Scurvy here says it's okay that you couldn't play the theme song. I just imagine it's the theme song with the word blob instead of thong.
Yes, it does use the word blob. And this is something you won't see anymore. A doctor actually practicing out of a house.
Yeah. Now, just think if you left on time, the whole movie would have changed.
Yep, he's supposed to have a conference that he's supposed to go to, and in fact, that's what he's doing now. Is he's telling his housekeeper to keep an eye on the house, and that he's leaving. He'll be out of town.
Yeah.
And this scene here.
Go
ahead.
I just want to say, welcome, Sean Carter.
Hello, Sean. Good to see you.
Hello from Pizza Hut, everyone.
And Sean lost a very dear friend, a pooch of his, recently. He had to put down.
Yeah.
So that's awful. I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, cute little chihuahua.
Yeah, I was sorry to hear that.
Yeah, man. And hello, Sean.
Yeah, I know what it's like. They're like my babies to have my dogs. And the scene with the doctor, I like the fact that in the remake, they did stick fairly close to the plot of this movie in that, where they had the scene in the doctor's office and all that. I thought that was nice. Look at that. He's actually speeding. He's going 50 miles an hour. Can you imagine that?
Was that faster back then?
Yes. Yes, that was faster back then. Well, not only that, though, but if you'll notice, on country roads, it's not a highway. Yeah. Yes, 55 was exceedingly fast.
Yeah. Well,
kids these days.
Well, mine there go. I go like 90 miles an hour every day, so.
Right.
Yeah, but you're a maniac. You're like me. I used to like rip down gravel roads and not consider the consequences of doing a $120 down a gravel road. And I mean kilometers, not miles. I'm a Canadian.
Yeah, oh, yeah. What's that in freedom units?
Don't fuck up. I know. Like.
No, but I don't go too fast down gravel roads after I almost died. So.
Yeah, you smartened up. It's like me. There's a certain thing. Anyways, getting back to the movie.
Oh, do I have to play my thing here? I've got. Jesus, I loaded the thing just for me. Because I know I tend to go on tangents and all that. Just a sec.
Damn it, Gorilla.
Well, you guys have heard the song.
Oh, man, that was a little low.
Is that Bird?
Yeah, I got it here.
Gorilla, get back on track. I got shit to do today.
That bird make me a couple things.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm sure you guys remember the old song, I Can't Drive 55. So at the time, that's what the speed limits were. And then eventually they raised them to 65 and then some places 70. Because originally they were higher. They were like 60, 65. But they claimed the National Transportation Safety Administration claimed that many, many, many thousands of lives would be saved if they reduced the speed limits down to 55.
Yeah.
And they did for at least a couple decades. And then they did a study and found out it really didn't make any difference. And that's why they raised the speed limits back up to 65 and 70. Here we have the doctor getting ready to leave, and that's when the teenagers pull up with the old man and they help him out of the car.
Yeah. Stay on schedule. That's why you got to stay on schedule.
See, and I have a real problem with this scene. Like, I mean, maybe it's just the It's like, they're like, calm down, old man. Shut the fuck up, old man. Jesus Christ, stop making so much noise over there, old man. The dude's like, time, like his hand is getting eaten away, and I'm like, they're like, you know the guy's name? Calm down, old man. You're just like, you're very unprofessional for a doctor. Like, holy shit! Like, I'd hate to have you as my family doctor.
Oh, well, I would have thought that the doctor knows everybody in town, but I guess the old man never went to visit him. And the old man is
Apparently
older than the
not.
doctor. Yeah. Well, I can understand.
Well, because they do.
Go ahead.
They make a comment later in the film where they're like, "Oh wow, look at like he's away from everyone. He's like, no lights, no power, no movie."
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's just off and secluded out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm assuming he's never been to this clinic. It's just kind of unprofessional being like, you'd think he'd be like, hey, dude, what's your name? You know, can you tell me about yourself? What happened?
Hey,
Not Steve, go out and see this old farm and see if you can find someone who like knows what happens. It's like, the dude's right there. Like, you can ask him.
well, you know, you don't need a doctor when you have moonshine.
Well, I mean, true.
I think the reason
I
why
don't think moonshine's going to stop when it like crawls its way up your arm and starts like engulfing your entire body, though.
Right. I don't think they completely understand the seriousness of what's going on just quite yet. And honestly, I think the only reason why, because I thought about that too, why does the doctor send them back to go find witnesses? I think it's just to extend the script and the plot in the movie. Because there isn't a lot of reason to do that. Because think about it, it could be dangerous, and you wouldn't want to send them back into a dangerous situation.
Well, exactly, right? And I mean, like, I do get it, because, like, considering what's about to happen in the following scenes, no spoilers yet, it is good that it's for plot reasons that they need to send him out. And then, yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Right, and plus it's...
Maybe he's just pissed that they delayed this trip, so they're just sending him out on a wild goose chase, just get him the hell out of there.
Well, another reason too is they want to establish more of Steve's friends, because they're going to play a larger role later on in the movie, instead of them just showing up at the end and helping out. It makes more sense that they're going to establish them early on. Now we get our first good look at it, and then I thought this was odd because, and I'll point it out later on in the police station. They ask her, Jane, did you see it? And she said, well, no, not really. Well, then what is this? Right, so.
Is she looking
that's a very salient point.
Is she looking right at it, though?
They all are.
Or is she just looking away?
From what I can tell. Let's see here.
Oh, no, like, when it comes to that police station, it's like, well, we'll discuss it when we get to the scene later on that we're going to discuss, I guess, because I don't want to spoil it yet.
Which is another trope where nobody believes the teenagers, so the teenagers have to save the day, right?
Yes.
Which we'll see in countless movies. Sorry, was that Gorilla?
So that trope goes all the way back to this movie.
Further back
at
than
least.
This movie. Yeah, even further back than this one. But this is one of the first mainstream big movies. I know it may seem like for a lot of people, if they're not aware, they're thinking, well, this is just another old movie. It's not. This was actually a milestone for horror at the time. And of course, don't take it easy and gives him a shot. And this is where the doctor tells him, can you drive out to the place where you found him? See if you can find somebody who knows what happened. And of course, back in these days, they don't immediately grab the phone and call the police, like they would do now. Because now, anytime they see something that they don't understand, they're automatically on the phone to 911. And he asks him to turn out the porch light as they leave, so that he won't be disturbed as he looks at the old man. In fact, I believe that's where he locks the door. Because they do bring that point up earlier. They're trying to figure out how the door is locked from the inside. So he tells them to turn the porch light off, and he locks the door because he doesn't want to be disturbed. And he grabs a book for reference, and there's the friends waiting out there. And of course, they're teasing him because he was speeding.
See, and it's funny. I find like this dude especially is a much better actor than Steve McQueen. Like,
Always, he looks like he's in his 30s.
they all, dude, like they're all my age, and I'm just like, come on, really? It'd be like me trying to play a teenager. It's like, hello, fellow teenagers. Like, how are you doing today? Like, I don't know.
Are you hip? Are you cool, Daddy?
Dude, straight up, it's just I don't know.
Well, the problem is finding teenagers that can act. So I guess
That's exactly.
Even to this day, they still pull people in their 20s and 30s to play teenagers.
Oh yeah, and 100%. Because I was just thinking that I was trying to clear some popcorn out of my. Anyways, that like it's so hard to find competent teenage actors, child actors. Like I do understand why they did this. It's just like I really have to put on the suspension of disbelief when like Buddy's got like a widow's peak coming on and the girl looks like she should be like someone's mom.
All right. Or usually they decide to race backwards.
And once again, I have a problem with this because they're just like, oh, he's like, you say when, and it's just like, why don't you just say when the light goes fucking whatever? Instead, he's just like, go, and then he like, I don't know. I feel like he cheated.
Well, I think what they're doing is I was thinking about that too. I think what they're establishing is the friends didn't see the light. I don't think the friends were noticing the light. And Steve's character did not want to run the light, which he didn't do. He waited till it was green. So the only law they broke was driving backwards on the wrong side of the road, but it wasn't running the light.
Okay.
I think they're trying to establish that he's not a complete lawbreaker.
And here they're committing a felony, waking a police officer that's on duty.
Is that a felony driving backwards? I've done it.
No, waking a police officer while on duty.
Oh,
In the wrong lane, yeah, it's probably an offense.
Just a misdemeanor, buddy.
It looks like he had something in his lap. I think he was reading something.
Oh, looks like his eyes are closed.
He moved something out of the way.
Yeah, I think so.
And he wins the race, of course, and he's showing off. There's the light, now it's red. And that car is just 1 year off of being a Plymouth Fury. Christine, the movie Christine. So it's basically almost the exact same model. For you horror lovers, anybody out there who knows what that is.
I've never seen the movie Christine, but my dad named 4 cars Christine.
Or I guess your dad really liked the movie then.
No, I think it said they worked when they wanted to or something or like that.
Like they had a mind of their own?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from the movie Christine. You've seen that, right, Gorilla?
No, I have not.
Oh, well, then we'll make sure to cover it on this channel one of these nights. It's a John Carpenter movie, and it's an absolute must-have. In fact, it's when you watch the opening titles of our horror stream, one of the clips is of Christine.
I also haven't seen it, Pop, so I know of the references and I know of it. So, yeah, we definitely need to cover it.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that I mentioned in my stream the other night that I'm not fond of Stephen King, but it's one of those in the hands of a competent director. It turned out to be a good movie. Other than that, most Stephen King movies are really bad. Starting with Maximum Overdrive. I've got to highlight that, especially Maximum Overdrive. That was written and directed by Stephen King.
I don't know. You're telling me you didn't like The Langoliers?
Yeah. No,
that was so bad. I felt sorry for Dean Stockwell being in that. I mean, he was so much above that. I couldn't believe he was in that movie. Sorry, go ahead, Gorilla.
See, this is the kind of cop that we need nowadays, or at least at this scene, where it's small town. He knows everybody. Everybody knows him, and he doesn't sit there and bees an ass to him. He just calls them out on their BS and goes, "Hey, don't make me have to tell your dad about it." Goes,
I agree. I was thinking about that while watching this too. I wish cops were like this, but they're not.
Yeah, and he goes, "Well, then promise me you're not going to be horsing around no more." He goes, I promise. Just don't tell my dad." See, this is where I think if you're gonna be if a police station's gonna hire him, the cop has to live in the precinct that he's supposed to be serving and protecting, and that way he knows the people in the community. Everybody knows him. Then if he acts up, then the people in the community can blacklist him and all that for all they care. But he knows his toes because he knows them. And if say he sits there and does, and is starts being an ass to like say Sally's son, Sally can say, "Well, then you're no longer welcome in my diner," type deal, because everybody knows each other.
Yeah, but when you think about it, though, what if a cop holds a grudge? I wouldn't want to live in a town where it's the same cop year after year after year, constantly being an asshole to people.
Oh,
No,
dude, that was my town.
Yeah, and I've been there too. Same thing. I've been there too.
Hey,
Yeah.
we never had that problem here because if you had a bad cop, then he would not be welcome in a lot of places in the town. He'd have to go out
Yeah,
of
but
town.
they've got to do a lot of bad things in order for that to happen. You have to do a lot of things for that to happen. The bad cops aren't that stupid and over the top, where they constantly get busted. They're
No,
usually sly enough to where they can do a bunch of crappy stuff to people and get away with it.
well, they can't get away with that around here. Maybe in the bigger cities they can because nobody knows
All
them.
the bigger cities.
Yeah, but
That's how they get promoted. Yeah, that's how they get promoted in the bigger cities.
But that's why I'm a small town.
But look at those small towns in the South where they have a quota and they're making thousands of dollars a day on giving tickets to people who don't even deserve it. So that can backfire as well.
I don't know I don't know what it's like down south.
Well, there's a lot of small towns where in fact, there's one where they just recently, they had to disband the entire police department because that's what they were doing. They were pulling people over and giving them tickets just for the hell of it. And they were raking in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And what they were doing is they were telling people, well, the dog's alerted on your money, so you're a drug dealer automatically. When it's been proven that every paper bill in the United States, and probably Canada too, has cocaine and drugs on it. Because every bill has passed through a drug dealer's hands.
Well,
so now they can no longer say that the dog's alert on money.
Well, actually, I thought it was like one in 5 bills is currently in circulation had enough drug residue to be picked up through a drug dog because people would use the bills to snort the cocaine up their nose, and then they go spend the money, and then the money would get sloshed around in the cash register, then it gets sloshed around in the bank, then it get ran through ATMs and everything.
Yes, they
we should probably
move on.
Stick to
yes, he gets a
but no, talking about the police in this town, in this movie, he sets the precedence as the good guy. We will see later on that there's the bad police officer, there's the other police officers. There are stereotypes and tropes. Once again, this movie is full of tropes. And this is the setting, the one of the really nice cop in the town, the really dick cop in the town, the one who works the night shift, who doesn't know what's going on,
Unfortunately, the good cop is the one in charge. Right.
Fortunately, I would say.
Right. The bad cop is the one that's eager to please and wants to make a name for himself. I lived in a city just like this. And the chief of police reminded me of this guy. His name was Ed Winchester. He was a nice guy. And he was retiring. And he said, no matter what happens, I don't want Jerry Dyer, who was his assistant. He says, I don't want him being a police chief. The guy is, on top of being a child lover, I'll put it that way. He had an abuse record a mile long. And then when Winchester retired, nobody wanted the job. So that Dyer guy got it. And he ran the town with an iron fist. And it was terrible. Horrible. And then he became mayor. And now he's mayor of that town. Can you imagine that?
Dude, small towns are so much worse than people think. But we should probably move on to the Blob.
Right. He started portable roadblocks. They were pulling in so much money from what they call portable roadblocks. If you couldn't find drunk drivers, they'd go out there and find them. And if you weren't drunk, they'd find something on you. So here's his friends, and they're teasing him. They lost the race. And he's saying that he's going to go back up to the old man's area and check out and see if he can find anything. And he's asking them if they want to join him, and they're saying they want to go see a midnight movie.
Now, what did they mean by unprotected ladies?
Well, because it's an old-fashioned trope where they figure all women had to have an escort. They're just going to say that in front of the woman, like they're going to say, "Oh, she needs to be protected in case something happens." But that's a phrase that I'm sure you can't use these days. You'd be Me Too'd into oblivion.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if they meant like single ladies or ladies there just by themselves or.
No, it's like back in the days they would when a woman had to walk home, a man would offer to escort her home, and she would say yes. But it's not like they were automatically assuming something was going to happen to her. It's just a matter of being polite, and I don't know. It's just it doesn't exist anymore. It might in real life, but definitely not in Hollywood. And here's where he's calling the doctor that he's supposed to be meeting with, and he finds out that that doctor already left. So they asked him if he wanted to leave a message, and he said no. And as he's calling for help, he notices that the blanket's moving. And he's calling his nurse in because he's telling her that he needs help. Poor nurse. And they find the area where and of course this is like I mentioned earlier, this is on a soundstage. And now they're making the connection with the shooting star. And apparently it's still hot at this point. And they're passing it around, examining it. And they decide to go look to see if they can find a house nearby because they can hear a dog barking. Now they're looking at the miniature. That's why it's going to look a little off when they're walking towards the house. Because they're actually walking towards a miniature. And they're going to... Of course, now my computer's going to act strange. See how they're all hunched over?
Yeah.
And now it cuts to the actual set.
Yeah. Oh, Scurvy says, "Let me see that blob."
We will see that soon. And there's the old man's dog, unfortunately. Poor Pooch.
Well, fortunately enough, they found the dog. It probably would have. Who knows?
Well, she said starved to death.
Yeah, probably.
So,
That's probably what
yeah.
would have happened.
Well,
Yeah.
dog's resourceful enough; it wouldn't have starved.
Well, it depends. If it couldn't get out that door, it would have. Or if there's no food put down for it.
Right, something
Well,
tells me that dude wasn't just like coming into town to buy bags of dog food. He was probably like feeding whatever he had scraps left. So
Yeah, I'm guessing. Yeah, he's like a farmer, and it's probably scraps. And of course, they actually called the movie a spook show, which you cannot use the word spook anymore.
And I don't know the reason behind that.
Well, let's just say unfortunately, they decided to. I'll say a certain political party decided to use it towards a certain race of people, a certain skin color, without getting flagged. But I'm sure you can guess which skin color and which political party. I'll just say they used to wear a lot of white and white hoods.
yeah.
Yeah, there was a derogatory term.
It's just there's a group that starts with one letter and repeated 3 times.
Yeah.
If
Yes.
that's enough to tell you.
And it's not KFC.
Yeah.
No, but there is a K in it.
Right there, yeah. And that political party is currently running the country.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
shocker.
Oh, Scurvy here is asking Suzanne is if her family abroad's doing okay. Well, I hope so. It's just turning into a shit show over there.
Where?
In Israel.
Oh yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all that's going on is funded by us. Isn't that lovely?
Oh yeah.
So here's the nurse arrives to help out the doctor. And he comes ashore with the patient, and there's no patient. And he looks right at her and says, "What do you mean?" And he can see the bed with his own eyes, but oh well. He needs to walk into the room and stand right in front of the bed to see the old man's not there anymore.
No, dude, right? That kind of bugged me too. I was like, what? What do you mean he's not there? It's like, dude, you're taller than her. Like, how can you not see over her shoulder? And then here we go. Finally, the Blob. Holy shit! In its glory. Do you want to tell us how they made the shop top?
Well, that's one giant shit pile of shit.
No.
And
That's coming up in the next movie.
And you notice too that every time Blob consumes a person, it gets bigger. So that's the reason why it's size that it is now.
Just teeny tiny.
The actual Blob was a mixture of red dye and silicone. And by the way, to this date has never dried out and is still kept in the original 5-gallon pail in which it was shipped to the production company in 1958 from Union Carbide.
That's amazing. Oh my god, I want to touch the Blob. Like, this is the best part of the movie to me, is this creature effect. That's awesome.
I was gonna say, that looks like the crap we purged out of our machines after we got done making the bait at work. Well, I was at my last job.
It was put on display over the years as part of the annual Blob Fest, held over a 3-day period each summer in Phoenixville, PA. So, like I said, all this was filmed in this small town, and that's where, if you go to this day, it's still on display, and they have a 3-day celebration of the movie still, which provides a number of the shooting locations for the film. In addition to displaying the Blob and miniatures used in the shooting, the event features a reenactment of the famous scene in which panicked movie theatergoers rushed to exit the town's still functioning Colonial Theater, as well as several showings of this film. So as we get to the end of this movie, when it shows the movie theater, that same movie theater is still there. And as part of the 3-day celebration, people reenact the scene where the mob is rushing out of the theater.
That's awesome. That's really sweet. Way for a hometown to like embrace something.
I know. Well, yeah, and it makes sense because that's, other than that, everybody's like, what's Phoenixville, right? So that's their claim to fame. So they're going to milk it for all they can. But it's nice that there's an audience for it still. They're still introducing it to new generations, and tourists are actually traveling to get there to check it out. And I'm sure, obviously, it's behind glass where you can't touch it, unfortunately, because they're not going to want anybody trying to steal part of it or fingerprints and all that other good stuff. So I'm guessing it's probably in a display case. And I guess she doesn't want to jump over it, so she's trapped in the corner. I don't know what this is, but it's got to be killed before it gets any bigger, he says. Oh, doctor, I'm afraid. Try to stay as far away from it as you can. Now, here's something I want to point out. Here's where he tells the nurse behind you the trichloric acetic acid. And he tells her to grab it and throw it on the Blob. You guys know what trichloric acetic acid is used for?
No, I do not.
To remove genital warts. Throw it.
They didn't use acid when I had plantar's warts on my feet there. They just froze them off.
Well, yeah, but then this was back in 58, right? Now they freeze them.
Before they would have burned them off with acid.
Right. And it was also important when they burn them off with like a soldering iron type thing. Cauterize them. Try to stay absolutely still, right? Like when a bear confronts you, just stand there and stay still. And he says he's going to go and grab his gun. And of course, she panics and moves. And of course, this is a 50s horror movie, so she's got to stumble and fall. And doing that knocks the lamp over, which blows up the fuse. Remember that this is 58, so the house has a fuse. So you lose one bulb, you lose them all, pretty much.
Brutal.
Well, that's kind of stupid.
Now we get a better view of the blob. This
And
is the
it's
reason why
so much bigger.
it is, Nick, because now
And
you notice now it consumed people a lot faster too, because it consumed the nurse in just a matter of a few seconds. So it's twice the size, and he does shoot it with a shotgun, as you can see the effect there. But
eats
this is where
that
he
shit like
realized,
ballistic gel.
yes. But seriously, it would have been a crime if this movie would have been in black and white. That's why it absolutely had to be in color. And here's where the teenagers ride back to the doctor's house, and they're saying that it looks like nobody's there.
See, and I would have liked it to have all been black and white except for the blob. And
You know,
have the blob be like super red, like a Hammer horror film.
they did that. Have you seen the movie The Tingler? They did that in The Tingler.
No, I have not seen the movie The Tingler.
It's a movie that I'll be covering. It's where the whole movie is in black and white, starting Vincent Price. But then there's a certain scene where where the scene is in color. Only the blood is in color.
Oh, okay, because yeah,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Or they did that in Schindler's List, where the whole movie is in black and white except
The girl
one
with the dress.
girl. Yeah.
Yeah, the little girl. That's right. Yeah. And yeah, the Tingler. That's what an interesting concept for a movie. But we're not talking about that. We're going to talk about the blob.
And since Gorilla brought it up, I'll mention it really quick. Gorilla, do you know why that girl had a red dress?
No, we were sitting there pondering the whole meaning of that whole thing there.
It's Steven Spielberg's Lucky Color. His first movie was Duel with Dennis Weaver, and Dennis Weaver was driving a red Ford.
Okay.
So yeah, so you'll see red in all his movies. That's his lucky color. He considers it. So that's the only reason why.
Gotcha.
So here's where he goes. He says he's going to check the garage and see if the doctor's car is there. And as he does it, he hears a noise and he turns, and he sees the doctor struggling, and the blob overcoming him. And startled, as you can see, he's frozen for a moment, and he runs back to the car. She's asking him what's happened, but he's in shock. He's not able to completely describe it.
So this is why, and later coming up when you're talking about when she's like, well, did you see the blob? Well, see what happened? This is what they're referring to is like, because he's like, dude, no, I saw the doctor, blah, blah, blah. He got attacked. And like, they asked her and she's like, do you see it? And she was not there. Only Steve saw that.
Okay. I see what you mean. So they were saying about the attack, not about necessarily seeing the blob.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah. No worries.
Here we are back at the police station. And we're basically being introduced to the different police officers. The guy standing up, it's basically the three different versions of like Nemesis and stereotypes. The guy standing up is the in charge, who is the nice guy. The guy in front of the camera in the foreground, who has the chest set, is like middle ground. He's like a nice guy, calm, laid back. The one in the back, further away from the camera, is the jerk that wants to always arrest people. It's always looking to get a way up. It's always searching to get a promotion. And in most cases, they usually do.
Well, and it's not, this one isn't so much about getting a promotion. This one is like, I hate teenagers because a teenager killed my wife, and so all teenagers are fucking evil. And it's just like, it's one of those tropes, like, right? Like, oh, a black person killed my wife, so I hate all black people or whatever. It's
Right.
He's that trope.
Right, but he also, imagine if you were a fellow officer, would you trust him behind his back? He'd be the first one to throw you under the bus so he can get a promotion.
Oh, for sure.
Right, he has no honor. But he's one of the stereotypes of a police officer, so they did have him in the movie. And here's the wing.
I don't know if I would say if he doesn't have any honor. It's more of a fact that like he's prejudiced and arrogant, and because like he does follow orders even when we'll see later on when he doesn't agree with it.
Well, I think he goes with he doesn't want to make the assumptions. If it sounds unbelievable, then they're just lying to get attention type deal. Instead, he just doesn't want to do his job and actually investigate what they're telling him.
Well, you would think that if he had that sort of attitude towards people, that they would have already gotten rid of him. because that guy, the sheriff is in charge, would have straightened him out a long time ago. He said, "Look, you either need to stop showing this prejudice towards people, or you're out of here." But that's not part of this movie, and it's not part of the plot. So they come in and say that the doctor is dead. And of course, you have this guy doesn't believe him, and not only that, but he's mocking them, of course. Funny how the cops and the teenagers look about the same age. Did you guys catch that line? It says, "Doc Hallam's dead, Jim." You've got to check it out.
He's dead, Jim.
He's dead, Jim, right.
My favorite one was in Cat's Paw there when he looks at the skeleton and just said, "He's dead, Jim." But anyhow, back to the movie.
That fucking giggle gorilla, god damn it.
So they head off to go check out the doc's place, and this guy pulls out his chess set, and he calls another station, another police station in another town, and we discover that that's who he's playing chess with.
And like, I don't know my chess moves, but like, clearly he lost in that game. So I'd like to know, anyone in the comments or anyone who rewatches this in the future,
right?
if you know chess.
And we're assuming he's black because it's closest to him.
That would make sense, yes.
And I'm guessing if you look over to the right, that's the queen, and it's going to take out that pawn. I think that's what he's talking about. Because the bishop can only move diagonals. It cannot take out that knight from left to right. The bishop cannot take out the knight because the knight's directly in front of it, and the bishop can only move diagonal. And over to the right is the black queen. Sorry, go ahead. No, or is that another pawn? That's pawn.
It looks like any movie he makes, his king is took.
No. The king is way in the back.
No, but he has a couple moves there that'll take out the king.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if they necessarily mean that, or do they mean to the far right where the queen can take out the pawn?
I'm thinking he's talking about the queen's going to be able to take out the king, and the king's not going to be able to move. But once again, I am not a good chess player.
Well,
I don't know.
What it'd be is the knight would take out the queen, he'd be forced to take out that knight there in order for. But if he does that, then the queen takes him out.
Well, and the way it works is is the black character is on the black squares, and the white player is on the red squares. Now, on the right-hand side, you'll see the queen is in the red square. You got that? Now, if that queen moves diagonally to the left, it could take out that pawn, which is protecting the king. So he's one step away from checkmate. He's in check. Because right now that queen can move diagonally and take out that pawn that is right in front of the king. The king can only move one space at a time. Yep. So once he slides that queen all the way over and knocks out that pawn, that king's been had. It's out of commission.
There you go. Checkmate.
He's in check right now. Checkmate would be the next move, is when he pulls up and knocks out the pawn, and then when you have the king trapped, is checkmate.
Yeah. Yep.
So there.
All right. Well, we figured it out.
And we got a map painting. Because you guys have noticed the house looks different than it did in the previous shots of the movie. So
it sure does.
It does. It's the first thing I noticed that this is definitely a matte painting. But it still looks okay.
It's fine. It's like, dude, a lot of these matte paintings are places that you could probably put up in your house, and people might be like, that's a bit bizarre. And you'd be like, meh.
Right.
Don't mock my art taste.
Well, especially if you were the great Albert Whitlock. He was like one of the best of all time. And he did everything from like the movie Cycle. He did Star Trek. I mean, he did some of the biggest matte paintings ever. So I'm sure he's probably got an entire library at his house. People would be like, what? That's just a house. What's that for? So here's where they decided to go and investigate. And the lights are out. The lights are supposed to be out. But here's where they established it's dark because he asked the other officer to pull out his flashlight, which he does. And they're looking around to see what may have happened. this is where he says, I think this is the room I saw him in. This is where Steve says that he saw the doctor struggling with the blob. And this is where they said it's locked. That's why I mentioned earlier where you see the doctor lock the door. I'll see if I can find a key that'll work. And here's where he says, no, the key's already here. It's been locked from the inside. And they knock and there's no answer. And he says he's going to go around and break the glass and crawl into the window. And here's where this is why I mentioned that there's supposed to be no power, but that last room was fairly well lit. And he says, I'll see if I can find the fuse box. Okay. And she wonders about the little dog. He says, I don't know. And there's where he fixes the fuse, brings the power back, and he finds the light that fell over that caused the fuse to go out. And by the way, too, also a side note, I'll make this fast, is not only did most houses have fuses back then, but the electrical outlets only had 2 prongs. They didn't have the 3-prong ones that we have now. That's one of the reasons why we have 3 prongs, is the third one on the bottom, the round one, is ground. And that way this doesn't happen anymore. That's less chance of you getting electrocuted. So the cop went around, busted the window, called into the window, says he doesn't see anything. Just a big mess. And they're asking Steve what about it, and Steve doesn't know. And they notice that the gun has been fired, but then there's no shot marks anywhere in the walls. And of course, once again, he's blaming the kids, the teenagers, saying that it's all set up.
Like, it's obvious something happened there. But he just doesn't want to take the time to investigate.
Which is not a very efficient officer. But, excuse me, she puts him in his place. He says, you guys are just trying to make us look silly. And she says, I think you're doing that pretty well yourself, Sergeant. And that's when he gets this smirk here from his boss. That pretty much shuts him up. And of course, they're still insisting that it's probably the kids that are causing this trick. And here's the housekeeper. This is one that the doctor was talking to on the phone earlier. And when he told her that he was going out of town to a convention. So she, as far as she knows, she thinks the doctor left. And all this happened after he was gone, which is causing confusion for the police officers. Because she's insisting that the doctor is quite alive and well, just out of town. So they decide, well, then what we'll do is it's a few hours drive. We'll wait and then we'll try to call in a few hours to see if the doctor arrives to his destination. So that buys him a little more time in the script in the movie to not immediately act on this. So they don't totally believe the kids just yet. He called me just before he left. He didn't leave. Look, Dave, I'll bet his car is still in the garage. And then she says, well, might be he rides with somebody else sometimes. And they're asking who he went with. And she said he was supposed to meet up with Dr. Gilpin from over in Groverton. And remember, he did try to call that doctor, but the doctor had already left. And she even says so. He won't be home. And they said, well, just checking. And he asked her if she's heard any gunshots. I sure did tonight and every other night, she says. Of course, she's like I mentioned in my prior stream about nosy neighbors. The people downstairs have those old movies on their television. There's always some shooting or screaming. Wherever this thief was, he didn't have to tear up the place like this. I feel terrible. And she wants to start cleaning it up, but he's telling her no because it's a crime scene. He doesn't say crime scene, but that's why he doesn't want her to touch it. How are we doing on the chat, Gorilla?
I got a couple here. Scurvy says, that was, let me see that blob in the tune of let me see that thong. I'm guessing that's a Weird Al Yankovic parody. Then it goes, That blah 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 blah. I like it when that beat goes da dee da da. Baby, make your booty go da 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 da. Girl, I know you want to show me that
Singing.
blob blah blah blah. Okay, Scurvy says I won't blame you for not actually reading my last chat, and we don't take kindly to you shirt wearing types. All right, that's all of them.
According to producer Jack Harris, they added more and more dye to the blob to make it increasingly redder after it had consumed successive victims. All right, and back to the movie. Here we go. And now they're trying to decide about the doctor, if he picked up another doctor along the way, or if he is headed out of town. Can I just dust around the figure? But of course not. Let's go, kids. It was a cute act, but this time it didn't work. There they are, still giving them the attitude. And this guy's talking about going up to a party and getting drunk. Roaring, stinking, no good drunk, to be exact. So bad he won't be able to see you. And he invites his friend here, and the friend says, no, that's okay. He says, well, tell your wife you're going away somewhere, and you can love her more when you get back. And the guy says, no, good night, and he leaves. And of course, he's still talking to him, even though he's gone. And here's where we have the blob moving in. And the struggle into the car, and we got to the police station. Hey, look, you keep telling me about a monster. All I want to do is clear this thing up. All right, I agree. But I still don't see why you had to call our folks. And I'd forgotten, since I hadn't seen this movie in so many years, I'd forgotten he called the parents. They didn't leave much of an impression in my mind, I guess. And it starts with her parent, of course, her dad.
Right, and once again, just like another stereotypical, just tropes abound in this. I'm the
Right.
principal of the high school, and what's everyone gonna think? And you stay away from my daughter, mister. And it's just like,
Yep.
okay. And then you got
Trope
like the
after
working
trope.
class other dude
Right, he's a lot
who's
more
like,
chill.
yeah.
Well, and you know what? It's and the reason why you have the old trope is because the father of the boy is always more trusting, and he's going to believe the boy, and the father of the girl is never trusting because he thinks that the boy just wants to get in her dress.
I mean, I don't blame him. I understand how boys are. At least I understand how I am. Like,
Exactly right, exactly. Which so it still applies to even today. And you think that the principal of the school would know who Steve is, unless he's a dropout.
yeah, that always struck me as a little odd, right? Like, which maybe further implies that this, once again, was their first date.
Yes, well, definitely
But
their first
then
date. Yeah.
you'd think there'd be the trope of you have to like come in and meet the family first, right? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah, get dad's permission.
Yeah.
And of course, from what her dad said, he was not expecting her to be hanging out at all times of the night. So I'm sure he didn't know about Steve taking her to the area where they all do the necking and smooching and stuff.
Make out point.
And of course, for this, they say they'll resolve the whole thing in the morning. And just they're releasing the kids to their parents to take them home. And nobody can hear him say, I'll be back to pick you up in just a few minutes.
Right? It's just like, really? Like,
Right,
there's
right earshot of everybody, right? He's like, oh, just go home and I'll sneak out and I'll be right there in a few minutes to pick you up. Nobody can hear that.
yeah, I have a real problem with that. Then I'm going to have a real problem coming up with what's going to happen at Steve's house.
But yes, that was very convenient too. Yes, I guess Steve's. Well, I don't want to give it away, but okay. Yes, because that is a actual. I thought it was a funny scene at Steve's house. And of course, we're arguing where the copy's talking to, saying, "How could you let him go home?" And he says, well, "Look, there's not much we can do tonight, so I send him home, and we'll investigate more in the morning." So he's a little more level-headed. Of course, he acts like we're still fighting the war. And this is where they're talking about why that cop is bitter. That this is what Nemesis was hinting at earlier. That apparently there was an accident and a 17-year-old boy killed his wife.
Yeah, like there's like it's funny because like there's a lot of complexity to that whole situation that like we're just completely brushing over in the fact that we're just like, nah, it's a trope, he's a trope. It's like, no, there's more to that character than they ever really give into the story. We can surmise from just that one sentence and whatnot and his actions, but like,
right, and a lot of that exposition was towards the audience because the audience is like, well, why aren't they arresting him? You know, what's going on? So
yeah.
he's not only talking to the other cops, but he's talking to the audience, saying, "Look, let's just stretch the script out for another 5-10 minutes,"
Totally.
without using those words. And of course, she looks old enough to be his mother, but they're supposed to be brother and sister, but oh well. And she goes to sneak out, and she says, "Don't tell anybody. I have to go by myself. We'll be back pretty soon." And he asks her if you're afraid to go by yourself, and she says, "No, I'm not afraid. I'll guard you." And she says, "You've got a bigger job. You've got to stay here and guard mommy and daddy." And she tells him that she'll bring him the little dog, and he seems to go for that.
Which I'm sure, like, you know, the dad would be super thrilled about. Be like, look, she got me a puppy because reasons.
And the parents aren't going to ask where and how the dog got there, none of that stuff, of course.
Dude, right?
And this is funny here because here's they save a lot of time, budget, and money because it's just completely voices off screen where Steve's parents are talking. And so you hear mom and dad talking. Do you think he did something wrong? I don't know. I don't think so. Please don't either, or they would have. We go back there. They wouldn't have sent him home. I felt that he was keeping something from us. He did seem more willing to talk when we were at the police station. Well, I think tomorrow he might talk and we'll be able to straighten this out. Maybe after a good night's sleep. Yeah, good night. Good night, dear. So it's like, okay. I guess he sleeps right next to his parents. So it's a good thing that they're not going to hear everything that goes on, right? Because this is
my God. Well, and therein lies so many questions. Like, we're not even going to go into the fact that, like, you can hear if he, like, because I'm to assume that, like, that conversation was supposed to either take in the room next to him or like downstairs. And like, yes, that is all. It's all supposed to be exposition, but it's just like, what we also don't see is like his dad like opens the door and like Steve's lying in bed and he's like, Steve. And then like gives it 2 seconds and like shuts the door. And then they like the conversation immediately starts with that whole exposition. And you're just like, huh.
Right. Or
okay.
They could have thrown in the old trope where he stuffed his bed, looked like somebody was in there. I mean, I did that when I was a kid.
Oh my God. Well, you'll have to tell us about that on our rumblings from the lab.
Yeah, it worked a few times, and then they discovered eventually. Yeah, it doesn't last.
Hey, at least we got a few times out of it.
Yeah, dude.
But you try that little plot. And it's a good thing they don't hear him traipsing around the roof right by the door. Now remember, this is July. They've established, so you would think the windows would be open because not everybody had air conditioning back then. That's why they advertised it so prevalently in front of the theater.
Yeah, but but his parents look kind of well off, so
Yeah, but in '58, I don't know if they all that. I don't know if their houses would have had air conditioning. That was like for the super wealthy at the time. I mean, now we take it for granted that almost everybody has it, but it wasn't like that back in the '50s.
yeah. All right. Oh, Suzanne says scurvy. I just went to check. So far, they are safe, but her ministry provides humanitarian aid wherever possible. So I worry for their safety. Thanks. Yeah, just gotta keep praying. And
I
Daniel says
know.
this movie is awesome.
Yeah, it's a nice little throwback. And what I thought was odd here was that him and her decide to have this entire conversation about should we go, should we not go, and they do it right in front of his parents' window. I mean, you would think that he would say, "Let's step away from the house before we have this discussion." So we talk about the old man again. I know we took him to the docks. This reminds me of the reason why I stopped watching The Walking Dead. Is the movie would stop or the show would just stop, and they would start regurgitating what we have already seen just to stretch out the plot. And unfortunately, that's what this whole entire scene is for. He's basically reliving what happened to the woman who was there the entire time it happened. So it's totally useless, and it's only there to stretch out the script. So there's a few times during this movie. I mean, I'm a fan of the movie, but I will call it out when you can tell that they're obviously just stretching it out for time purposes. So he says, "I know we saw the old man. I know we took him to the docks. I know the doc sent us out to see if we could find out what happened." And she should say, "Why are you telling me this? I was there." But anyway, and I know the old man had something on his hand. Something he couldn't get off, something that kept getting larger. And then I think I saw the doc. He was standing by the window and he was trying to get out. And the thing was all over him. And then and dissolved while I stood there. I think I saw this. "I believe you did," she said. Where's the old line? "Well, if you believe it, I believe it. And I believe you believe what you saw." And during this scene here is where, in between the cuts, you'll see Stephen McQueen smoke from his cigarette that he's hiding behind his back. You'll find it right about the 49-minute mark in the movie, and that's where we're at now. You know, plenty of people in their right mind thought they saw things that didn't exist. You know, like flying saucers, the light was just right, and the angle and the imagination. Boy, if that's what it is, then this is just an ordinary night. You and I are going to go to sleep, and tomorrow when we get up, the sun's going to shine just like yesterday. See, I mean, anybody can tell in the right mind. They're just stretching out the plot at this point. Because, I mean, these are supposed to be teenagers, remember that. They would be eager to get to their destination instead of standing around and pontificating like old people. But anyway, good old yesterday. "Steve, well, you believe you did see it, don't you?" "Steve, well, you believe you did." Okay, they're the same thing. "That's not true, Steve." "Well, maybe you don't want to believe it." Ugh, this is painful. "Maybe you'd like to tell yourself it didn't happen. But Steve, you're not the kind of person who can turn your back on something you know is true." And he says, "I don't know." "Well, you actually did see what happened to Dr. Hallen." I'm just going to go through this. We're going to repeat it again anyway, unfortunately. And now they're saying they need some sort of proof to convince the town. And I guess the only way you can find it is to go out and get it and look for it. And he says, "I'll go get the car." And they open and just like today, if you're wondering how much money people have, just count how many cars can fit in the garage. So yes, they were doing quite well to have a 2-car garage at the time. But this was the '50s, so it was probably a single income. The father probably made all the income, and the mother probably stayed home and was a housewife. And they don't start the engine. They wheel the car out, which makes sense to keep it quiet. And oh, my eyes are rolling back in my head. Okay. They just had that big exposition scene about should we do this? Should we not do it? Do I really believe what I saw? And
Hey,
hello,
PvP.
PvP.
Hi guys.
Welcome, PvP. Good to see you.
Hi. Just popping in for a short time. I probably won't stay too long today, but
Well, it's a relatively short
Hey,
movie,
PvP.
and
hello.
we're slowly getting
Hi,
to
everybody. Bob, Gorilla,
we're s-
Nemesis. Hi there.
we're slowly getting to the climax. So
Yeah,
they just spent about
I might
Go
only
ahead.
stay like half an hour anyway because I got stuff to do. I really need to do tonight, so I just thought I'd pop in for a short time because I was just running some errands. So I thought I'd just sit down for a minute and take it easy before
I
I start
appreciate
working
that.
on stuff.
And I still remind you, I still have to poll in the chat. So they just spent a half hour outside of his parents' window discussing should we do it, should we not do it? Did I really see it? Yes, you saw it. Well, if you saw it, I believe you saw it. And they notice they pull the car out of the garage and they cruise it about 50 feet and they park it and they repeat the same conversation again. Are you sure you want to go with me? Yes. Well, I believe it if you saw it. You believe it if I saw it. Believe. And this is exactly The Walking Dead right here in a nutshell. This is exactly
Right.
The Walking Dead in a nutshell. Why I stopped watching it was because of this garbage here.
Not the best screenwriting in the world, that's for sure.
It's terrible. No, it's obviously just to stretch out the plot. 1958, I can understand it because of lack of budget, but there's no excuse for The Walking Dead and any modern movie or TV show to do this old trope.
Yeah, you think they could have come up with a scene a little more creative than this? That's for damn sure. Jeez.
Well, it was budget constraints. There we go.
Yeah.
And that's the theater I mentioned to everybody earlier. That Colonial Theater is still there.
Wow.
And this is where they have the 3-day Blob Fest here in that small town of Phoenixville, Pennsylvania.
Blob Fest.
And inside that theater is where you'll find the Blob on display because I know you weren't here earlier at PvP, but the effect of the Blob they made was made with oil and silicone and a red dye, and that actual Blob still exists. And it's
Really?
still yes, it's in a 5-gallon barrel. And this small town where they filmed this movie has it, and they have a 3-day Blob Fest where they have a lot of the miniatures from the movie, and they have the Blob, and they reenact the scene where the crowd is running out of this theater. And
That's
this is
kind of cool.
it is.
I really like this. I like the billboard here where it says like Midnight Spook Show, Daughter of Horror, also Bela Lugosi. You're just like, oh man.
Time permitting, Bela Lugosi, right?
Yeah, you
Right.
think Bella would have got a little higher billing than the Daughter of Horror. Oh, well.
Unfortunately, he was so high at the time, he probably didn't even notice. But this is what I mentioned earlier. You see how prominent the air conditioning is advertised? Because
Yeah.
this is back in the day when they would draw people in because of the air conditioning. Because most people did not have air conditioning at their homes or in their cars.
Hmm.
It was only in the refrigerators, for those that had new refrigerators. And Gorilla knows what I'm talking about. The ones that you saw in the Waltons that has the condenser up on top of the refrigerator.
Right.
Yeah. That's a small ass screen for a theater.
It's a miniature.
Mm.
That's why you don't see any heads in front of it. Because I'll be right. It's supposed to look like they're watching a movie, but when it cuts and shows the screen, you're absolutely right. This is where you don't notice, but your brain notices that it's a miniature. Because for scale, it looks like a TV sitting in front of a screen. But back then, they didn't have TVs. And they didn't have TVs this big, I guess you could say. And they definitely were not widescreen. And I want to point out that what they're watching is an actual movie. But the narration, there's a narrator talking over the movie. And in the original movie, there was no narration. It was just the movie itself. But they added the narration for this movie, The Blob.
Huh.
And the narration was done by none other than Ed McMahon.
Oh, that's interesting. So Steve McQueen said,
McMahon, is that related to that McMahon that's doing the new?
Doing no, did yes.
No, is he related to that same McMahon that's doing the lower decks?
No.
I highly doubt it.
This is the guy who kicked the bucket, who is currently pushing daisies, who used to be the host of the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. He would say, "Here's Johnny."
Yeah, he
And
was like the sidekick.
I never figured out. I never figured out what his claim to fame was, because all he ever did was sit next to Johnny Carson.
That's
So I think
about
he was
it,
hired to laugh at Johnny Carson's jokes. I never figured out what his claim to fame was.
Yeah, well, he was a classic sidekick, right? Like he was just there to be a sidekick, basically.
But he himself was not funny. I never figured out. I love the Tonight Show. I watch it all the time. But
Yeah,
I never
Carson was
saw the
great.
appeal in. Yeah, I never saw the appeal with Ed McMahon. I always thought he was just
Yeah.
riding Carson's coattails.
No,
Pretty
there's
much.
Mike McMahon. That's a executive producer of Lower Decks. Is he related to him?
I don't know. I don't watch that new. I won't call it Trek because it's not. But I don't know.
No, but I thought maybe you'd know the some of the Hollywood producers and stuff around.
I don't know. I'd have to look it up on Internet Movie Database, and I have to. I'm also going to mention, because it's a fact, that Ed McMahon made a lot of money because he sat next to Johnny Carson, and Johnny Carson at the time was the highest paid person on television. Ed McMahon died poor, struggling for money because he blew his money as fast as he earned it.
Huh.
And with all the turmoil, and if you guys remember, for those old people, Ed McMahon used to do the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes.
Oh yeah.
And they got busted several times for throwing ballots away in the mail because people weren't buying magazines. See, the way the law makes this fast, the way the law works, when there's a contest, they're supposed to take your entry, whether you buy the product or not. You're supposed to have a chance to win. That's why all contests, you'll see in the fine print, no purchase necessary. Or if you don't have an entry, send in a self-addressed stamped envelope with your name and address on it, and then we'll put that in as your name. Well, Publishers Clearinghouse, they used to sell magazines, and what they were doing was people were entering their names into the contest, but they weren't buying magazines. And Publishers Clearinghouse was caught a few times with dumpsters full of entries in the back of their building. And there was a lot of controversy, and that kind of ruined McMahon's career towards the end there, I'll put it that way. Anyway, back to the set. Now, they're not in a real theater. This is a set designed to look like a movie theater so that we can get our next scene coming up. So the Colonial Theater is real, still exists in Phoenixville, PA, but all we get is the actual exterior. Everything you see on the inside here is a set on a soundstage. And here's where they're talking to their friends, and the people are complaining, saying you need to shut up. And of course, the old man is the one telling them to shut up. Oh, but they're so lucky they didn't have cell phones back then. And you guys will notice the movie poster with some scribbling out all over it, and it says, "More horrifying than Dracula, the vampire, and the robot." And anybody knows anything, and especially us, knows that's actually a movie poster from Forbidden Planet, which we covered a few months ago on this stream. So
Yeah,
they got
sure is.
Yeah, sure is familiar.
They got that's Robbie the Robot, and that's supposed to be Anne Francis, which of course they never had that scene in the movie, but it sold a lot of tickets back then. Now remember that Forbidden Planet was still very big when this movie came out, so it was still relatively recent. But the movie was low budget here; they didn't have the money or effort or time to paint their own posters, so this is what they threw up. And here's where they're getting the idea, and he tells them we need to organize the whole town. We need to wake everybody up. And they're saying, well, how are we going to do that? And he explained to them that he saw the Blob kill Dr. Hanlon. And he's basically the old trope where the police aren't going to listen to us, so we're going to save the town.
That's darn useless, please.
So Nemesis, does this remind you at all? Because every time I see this scene here, it reminds me straight out of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. What do you think?
Oh, 100%.
Right. They write the same old trope, right? Except in that one, which we were definitely going to cover on this stream because it's one of my favorite movies. We get the wonderful guy from Animal House who played Dean Wormer. His name slips my mind right now, but oh my God, he was a funny bad guy. I loved him. He's unfortunately dead now.
Double figure probation.
Double sleep, right? He plays the sheriff in Killer Clowns from Outer Space, way over the top, and he's very hilarious.
Yeah, he does really well.
I almost want to review Animal House on my channel.
John Vernon. I had to think for a second. That's it. But I love this. Okay, so Steve tells his friends to comb the community, pretty much knock on every door, wake everybody up. And now remember, these are teenagers. So they knock on the house, and there's a drunk party going on, people drinking, and he invites them right in. Come on in, have a drink. So that might be a little questionable these days. And they're telling him, we came to warn you. And, of course, they're partying and they're drunk. They're not listening to them. And he's just joking and making fun of them, saying the British are coming. Meanwhile, back to the set. And he says, excuse me, of course. I remember they're supposed to be looking for people in the town. I don't know why they're out in the bushes. I think that scene may have been, supposed to have been shown earlier before they were looking for the crater for the blob. Because it really doesn't fit now. Because Steve told them that we need to go to knock on every door and wake everybody up in the town. So I don't see why they're hunting around in the bushes like they are. It's almost out of sequence.
Yeah, there are some parts of this movie that kind of make you scratch your head and wonder what the heck's going on. I got to admit, yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's all budget. You know, like I said, it was. I think it was like, I'll look it up here, but it was like $150,000 to $200,000 budget.
Oh yeah.
Monsters. You must have been talking about that guy from Second Street. So they're talking to a bartender, and of course he's not taking them seriously either, because he's talking about somebody who's a drunk at another bar. And now we have Steve and her, Jane, passing by his father's, which we were introduced to earlier at the hardware store, or at the police station. So Steve notices that his dad owns a hardware station. So that tells us about how much money the dad has, a hardware store. And he notices the door's open. And he says that normally his dad would lock it. He would never leave it open. And the store closes at 10 p.m. Well, that's interesting for a hardware store. He goes in and investigate why it's not locked up.
It's a trap! It's a trap!
Gotta have that, huh? Gotta have some suspense. So now what he's doing is he's calling out the store custodian. Because he says, normally Mr. Wienermeyer cleans everything up and then locks up behind him. So when he comes in, he's yelling for Mr. Wienermeyer. Where are you? He says. And he goes to investigate. And here we get another scene that saves money. You'll notice that Steve walks off camera here behind that roll of food. And then we get expository. Not suppository, but expository. Steve, what is it? I don't know. Oh, it's a broom and stuff that Mr. Wienermeyer cleans up with. It's spread all over the aisle. Now notice they don't show it at all. It's all off camera. I love it because it's to save money and time, obviously.
Yeah.
And now she sees the blob and it falls into the stack of cans. And it draws his attention. What's the matter? And he runs towards her, jumps over the aisle. Of course, it's the 1950s. So that little stumble there over the cans pretty much almost knocked her out into subconsciousness.
Oh, jeez.
Gotta have the man carrying the woman. So I guess this is where they established, because I had to kind of go back and watch this again. I guess there's a door leading from the hardware store to the grocery store next door, or the butcher shop. That's where they're at now. And she decides to start laughing at this point. Our parents think we're home in bed asleep, sound and safe. Ha ha.
See, I thought they were at the grocery store the whole time, though. Like, the whole point was that the hardware store is across the way.
Oh, is it across
because he's
the
like,
way?
Mr. Yeah, because Mr. Wienermeyer owns the grocery store, and that's where they're at.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that when they crossed the street.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think that's what happens.
Thank
Because
you for
they're not in
clearing that up.
they're not in the hardware store. They're in the grocery store for sure.
Yes.
I have to ask. I wonder if Mr. Wienermeyer's first name was Oscar.
Maybe. I was kind of thinking that too.
I just couldn't resist that one. Oh, she's losing it for a second.
Yeah, but I know I was going to say they're very close. They come very close, but we do not get the old trope where he slaps her in the face.
That's an automatic F.
Automatic F from Gorilla for that. So here's where the Blob squeezes under the door of the freezer and then hesitates. So now she's worried about the little dog. Sorry, what's that?
How old is Steve supposed to be? I mean, I know he's supposed to be a teenager.
Oh, yeah, he's supposed to be a teenager, but he's actually 28.
Yeah, he looks it too.
Yes.
That's one bad thing. Every time I see him, it's like...
Right, well, PvP, take a look at all his, quote, friends from around the town, and they're all around the same age of him, if not older.
Yeah.
Which at least helps, because, like, at least there's not any actual teenagers mixed in when you're like, oh,
right.
Yeah, there's a huge age discrepancy. So it, like, they're playing the part that these 30-year-olds are all teenagers, and, like, I don't know, that old man in the theater must have been like 40.
Right. Well,
I heard, looked like he was 60.
Same thing with Jane's father. He wasn't much older than her, but that's why they put the frost in the hair, the flower, to make it look older.
Oh yeah.
It never looked realistic. I don't know why Hollywood did that. It never looked realistic when they put frost in their hair. And there's his friends. And kids, that's what used to be called a phone booth.
I remember
What's that?
those. We used to have phone booths pretty much exactly like that in my hometown many years ago.
Yep, same here. And of course, they call the police, and of course, of all cops, they get the worst one. And he gets upset and tells them off because he thinks they're playing a prank. All right, we tried to do it the right way. Now we're going to do it ourselves. And they say, how are we going to wake everybody up? He says, they'll think of it. More on Birdie, more on Birdie, more on Birdie, more on Birdie. Exposition, exposition, exposition.
Now, I got a question. I can understand the horn honking and maybe some of the bells dinging, but how did they get access to the air raid siren?
Yeah, I wondered that too. Yeah, I know.
Even
back then they kept it locked up.
And the old fire alarm?
Yes, somehow they got to the fire station really quick. Now we have more stretch the plot.
Right, like it's a little bit of comedy that they're trying to do here, where it's like, oh, where's my fire helmet? Oh no, now it's a civil defense. What do I do?
Yes, exactly right. And here's Jane's father comes down, and he's trying to call the police, and then the mother says Jane's not in her room. And then you say, where's Danny, her little brother? He's the only minor in the movie. Anyway, and he says, I'm guarding you. He was asleep on the couch. You know, this is what I was talking about when he put the frost in the hair and it never looked realistic. They could have added a few wrinkles. It wouldn't have hurt him. A little bit of collodion under the eyes. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And those darn teenagers waking up the whole town. And this is where you get an entire town listening to a teenager yell like that's going to happen. And that's where that fire chief, like they hired an 18 or 19-year-old to play the fire chief, because I didn't find him very believable at all. And his acting was extremely weak.
Oh, dude, he was terrible. Absolutely awful. I'm just like, this guy's in charge of the fire. Like, you guys are like, how did he get in charge? How did they get the fire department so quickly? I'm like, well, if this guy's the dude in charge, Yeah, he probably left the air raid siren unlocked and the fire department. Like,
It's all his fault. You'd think he'd have a little bit more commanding presence, I guess. So the police officer doesn't really necessarily not sure whether to believe Steve, but he does believe enough to send everybody home, and he tells them there is danger, but he tells them that you're safe in your own homes, which is actually probably not a good idea. Because we, the audience, know that it's probably better to stay in groups. If there's a menace out killing people, I would say everybody needs to stick together. But oh well, that's just me second guessing. And he tells them all to leave, be careful pulling out their cars. This is what we're talking about, guys. We're talking about the bad actor. It's the guy, the third from the right. He looks like he's about 20 years old. And meanwhile, we come back to the theater. And the miniature of the screen. And that is what used to be called a projectionist, people. They have been replaced by what's called a computer.
Yeah, and they actually used to have like 35 millimeter film they put through the projection.
You know, the worst part about it was, I think it was terrible and sneaky what Hollywood did. Because this is one of the main reasons why we lost the good drive-ins and mom and pop theaters, is because Hollywood mandated that they had to upgrade to the new digital, where everything's over a satellite.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
they wouldn't ship them out movies anymore. And that's what forced a lot of them to go out of business, because they couldn't afford to spend thousands of dollars of equipment
Yeah.
for all the new digital garbage.
Yeah, I think it sucks. Like, I can remember back, I guess the 80s was probably the last full decade when there was still a lot of mom and pop, smaller cinemas showing a lot of second run and classic films, and the drive-ins were still going into the 80s, I remember. And I mean, there's nothing better on a summer night than, piling into the car with a bunch of friends, and sneaking a case of beer in the back trunk, and going to one of those all-night marathons where they'd show like 4 really crappy movies in a row.
Oh,
But
yes.
you'd have a great time anyway, because it was, you roll the windows down on a nice warm summer evening and just hang out and with your friends, and it was glorious times.
Yep. My first car was a 69 Cadillac Sedan DeVille. I had to fit
Wow.
5 people in the trunk.
Nice. Yeah, I think we probably smuggled a few people in.
Yeah, it's funny because I go through the concession where you pay, and the guy's like looking at me suspicious. It's a big old car, and I'm all by myself. Are you sure you're by yourself? I said, yeah, just me, just me.
That's great. Oh, that's funny.
So the Blob attacks the projectionist,
Oh,
and that's when the crowd suddenly now it's got their attention, because the movie, the reel ends. So what happens is the Blob doesn't damage the projector or the movie in any way or interrupt it, but the projectionist dies and is not able to switch from one reel to another. So apparently the Blob came in right at the wrong time,
yeah.
and then we get another miniature, and I'm sure this is another one that's on display in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Pittsburghville.
Oh, geez.
yeah, it
And
was
here's
an awesome effect.
Watermelon's 4 cents. Jeez.
4 cents per
Wow.
pound.
Yeah. I think the last time I bought a watermelon, it was 2 something a pound. And here's the famous scene with them running out of the theater. Oh, I love stampede scenes. Oh, especially when they step on each other. That's like, I don't know why, but I'm sick.
Yeah, it's like the beach scene in Jaws, right? When everybody's panicking.
Yeah, see, when you see people actually land on the ground, people step on them. I love it. I don't know why. I just, we don't get enough of these scenes in movies.
Uh,
I mean, as you can tell, obviously, some of the people are smiling because they're having a blast. Even Grandma. Look at Grandma pushing that guy by the face.
Amazing still. I never even noticed that.
Neither did I.
It looks like Grandma's enjoying it.
I know it, right?
Weirder.
But it looks like she's pushing a kid down too, right? Like, fuck you, you little shit.
Yeah,
Like,
he does look small.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's hilarious. Good still.
So Bertie wants to go in there and see what's going on, but no, the sheriff says, no, you don't need to. Just take my word for it. It's horrible. It's terrible. Take my word for it. Budget, budget, budget.
Right? A lot of implied death in this film.
Right. Right, because then all they
Yeah.
have is the miniature of the inside of the lobby of the theater, the miniature and the set, and then the outside of the theater. So they didn't have like the lobby and all that else. So that's why they're not going to show the inside. So we get more of the crowd running, thank goodness. And they're all running over past this diner. And by the way, I wanted to mention that this diner became very famous because of this movie. So what they did is they uprooted it, pulled it up, shipped it off to Hollywood, and it was on display for many, many years in Hollywood. In fact, they used it for any of the... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying hi to Oiler Greg.
Hey, Oiler Greg.
Good to see you, Oiler Greg.
Hi, Oiler Greg.
But this diner, they ripped it up, shipped it off to Hollywood. It was a tourist attraction. And if anybody remembers from the 1970s, the old Bounce, if I remember right, was the paper towels, and Nancy Walker was playing a waitress in that diner. Or was it Downey or Bounce? The quicker picker upper. I'm sure you guys remember those commercials for all the old people. But those commercials were
Bounce.
Yeah, it was.
Downey was a fabric softener, wasn't it?
That's right. Downey's fabric softener. So Bounce was the name of the paper towels. It was advertised by Nancy Walker, and their slogan was a quicker picker upper. That was back in the 70s.
Right.
And the town of this town here where the movie was shot, they lamented losing this diner due to its appeal from tourists. So they rebuilt the exact replica. So if you go visit that town now, you'll see this diner still there.
Weird.
Or miniature effects. Yes, thank you, Gorilla. Go ahead, Gorilla. I'm going to grab something to drink. I'll be right back.
All right. Suzanne says, love the Blob. And Dana said, the summers must have been cooler back then because in 1957 and 1958, global warming was not as bad as it is now. Scientists say that the summer was the hottest summer in recorded history. Well, Daniel, you gotta remember, records only go back 120 years, so that really is not much to say over the 4-some billion years that the planet's been around, and the climate's always changing.
Yeah, I gotta say, back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I thought the summers were much, much hotter than they are nowadays.
Yeah.
Like we used to just bake for like 3 or 4 months straight. It was so warm.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
and the climate's always changing, and one volcano will spew more crap into the atmosphere than we have in our entire history. Then he also says, I love movies from this era. Then Scurvy says, hello, PvP.
Hi, Lemon.
Scurvy says the original concept was a blob made of last year's eggnog inside a Canadian man's apartment.
Actually, that might have been a more entertaining story than what they had in this film, actually.
Dude, I don't even want to think about the smell of that.
Actually, yeah. Even a month old, I wouldn't want to be near, much less a year. Yeah. Oh boy.
I think that's the best eggnog joke yet.
That is a good one, I gotta say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm currently drinking eggnog, so.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Hey. If you ever want to fix your eggnog obsession, just get the eggnog seltzer. You'll never want to drink that stuff again.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it. That sounds like a bad combination, actually.
Trust me, and I didn't even get that many views for me puking that crap up.
Oh,
But
no.
anyhow, Greg says my brother used to sneak me into the drive-in theaters in the truck. Oh, cool! You can't pull that anymore. Then Geller Greg says, "Hello, everyone. Hey, Euler. The primitive nature of the 50s era authorities is effective, surprisingly." And he says it. And Euler says, "Good point, Grill. We had the Ice Age a few hundred years ago. No, just go back 10,000 years. We're actually technically still in an Ice Age. The only reason that we're not covered in ice was because of a comet about 10,000 years ago. The Clovis
Younger-
comet.
What, the Younger Dryas event
Yeah, something like that.
with
maybe
the floods? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a comet that struck the Earth that melted the ice. So and he said he's laughing at Scurvy here. Global warming is all that is saving us from another ice age, and I must look out now for eggnog in stores.
Yeah, it's probably available.
Yeah, you missed. Did you hear what Scurvy said earlier? Pop.
About what? No, I went to get something to drink.
He said
Sorry.
the original concept was a blob made of last year's eggnog inside a Canadian man's apartment.
Right, you're right. A blob of eggnog just had a little bit of food coloring.
Yeah.
That probably would be pretty scary, all right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it would be. Wouldn't want to be eaten by that thing.
Definitely not.
Yeah, and Oiler Greg says, "Vote Dino Party." They hate comments. Alrighty.
Okay,
Well,
so here's where we have the full scale diner, and we have the obligatory scene with the Bob running past it saying, "It's coming." Okay, now we have the Blob in front of a photograph of the movie theater.
Yep. Yep, they sure do. And I mean, I accept the effect for what it is. I like
I
it.
don't
It's
mind.
the highlight of the movie. Anytime the Blob's on the screen, it's definitely amazing. But yeah. Boy, can you tell it's at the very least they're trying different things, right? They've got models, they're trying photos, they've got matte paintings, they're incorporating a bunch of different effects into
Yes.
the movie to make it the best that they can with what limited budget they have, which I'm not even
Right.
sure what the budget was for this film.
I think I read that it was 175,000, 200 somewhere around there. And
That's
it's
right.
actually
And then it
good-
made like ridiculous amounts of money
4
back.
million.
So
Yeah, it made a lot. And the reason why I point this out, and why I do appreciate exactly, and Nemesis has got it exactly right, is the other option would have been to use a blue screen, and then you would have seen the line around the Blob, and it would have taken you out of the effect and would have ruined it. So this is actually a much better decision to the way they did do it. That way we get the Blob nice and well lit, and we get the background. But the scene is so fast, a lot of people wouldn't notice that it's a photograph. So now we have her little brother out trying to shoot the gun. Oh, when I was a kid, I wanted him to get killed, but oh well, can't do that.
you got to wait for the next movie for that to happen. Spoiler.
Yeah, I know. Poor little Danny. So Danny runs into the diner, and here we have it. Now remember, everybody else already evacuated the diner. So the only people left are the cook and the waitress. Stereotypes, of course. I'm telling him it's too late, and now, oops, I want to see if I can cover that. I'm going to see if I can do this without getting a copyright warning. But that's basically the Blob in front of it, a small miniature. We went from a full-size diner to a miniature. And also sometimes a little change to a matte painting. Yep, it's Christine. Yeah, PvP, Nemesis of Eden and Gorilla, neither of them have seen Christine yet. So I told them we'll make sure to cover that one of these nights.
Actually, I don't think I've seen it either, come to think of it.
Oh, well, good. Then, yeah, definitely, absolutely. It's a must-have.
Yeah, that's Stephen King, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, my Stephen King watching is hit or miss at best, so, yeah.
Well, because his movies sucked in general. That's what I was telling them.
A lot of the times.
The only credit I'm going to give him is when it was in the hands of a good director and who turned out a good movie, like The Shining.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite. I think The Shining is a classic. Of course, Stephen King hated it.
Of course he hated it, yeah.
You know.
And then he made his own version, right?
Yeah, which I hear is awful.
It was.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to compete with like the original Shining, right? Like that's just beautiful. But
It's Stanley.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's because of Stanley Kubrick, not because of Stephen King.
Kubrick, yeah. One of my favorite directors for sure. Kubrick is a genius as far as I'm concerned. Like, brilliant director.
But I don't know. I just always saw Stephen King as a subpar writer, plagiarized everything. He never came out with anything original. and everything he produced and made was under the influence of drugs. So I dismiss him completely as a writer. I think he was overrated. Way overrated. I don't think he deserved any of the fame and notoriety that he got. And I would say his writing was on par of high school level.
Yeah,
At most, at best.
I generally found his stories to be pretty uninteresting. Actually, I thought they were kind of hackneyed. Really.
Well, I once read an interview with him where they asked him, who were your influences? And he said Richard Matheson, H.P. Lovecraft, Poe, all the people that I read. So it's like, why do I need to read Stephen King? I'll just read the originals. So because every time any story, Stephen King story came out, I'd be, wait a minute, that's just a rip off of this story, or that's just a rip off of that story. But oh well.
Well, it's funny because like everyone would always like shit on Dean Koontz, and they're like, he's just a shitty Stephen King, and it's like, I don't know, like everyone.
He wasn't as bad as Stephen King, no.
No, he wasn't, and like everyone has their merit that they've brought. Like, well, we may not like his writing. The concepts of his movies have been made into other media, which has been good.
Right, like one of his most successful movies, I'll ask you guys honestly, was Carrie. Did that scare you guys? Would you classify it as a scary movie?
Who's Carrie?
It's a movie by... Yeah, and the whole reason why that movie's worth mentioning is because the director was Brian De Palma.
Yeah, because the only Carrie I know slapped me the last time I seen her, so...
Who?
Uh-oh, we lost Gorilla. Gorilla hit the wrong button again.
What happened, Gorilla? What happened to Gorilla?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, well.
I don't know. Carrie, well, it's been ages. I think I saw it back in the 70s when it came out. But I didn't think it was particularly scary. It was kind of disturbing maybe at times with all the blood and stuff in some parts of the movie. But scary? I don't think it really scared me even back then when I was, a teenager or whatever.
Yeah, my mother took us to the theaters, and I was like, huh? And she read the book. So she was all excited to see the movie. I remember that.
Well, it's disturbing, right? It's a story about a girl dealing with physical and mental abuse at school, at home. And like if you take her psychic powers out of the scenario, it's even more horrifying. But like, I mean, there's retribution at the end with what happens.
I agree with that. I just have never found it I agree with that. I just never found it as scary.
No, it's not scary. It's disturbing more than scary.
Yeah. The best performance in the movie was her mother, Piper Laurie.
Oh my, yeah, for sure, hands down.
Yeah, the crazy Christian lady. That red hair didn't help. My mother was redhead, and when she got mad, oh my god. So here's what they decide. What they're going to try is the Blob has covered the entire diner, and they know. And this is something I didn't realize. And I had seen this movie several times as a kid, but what they mentioned here that totally went over my head was that the people inside the diner are going to run out of oxygen. Because what happens is they I guess this Birdie, the cop, the guy with the bad attitude, is a sharpshooter. So he's going to shoot the live electrical wire above the diner and have the wire fall down on the Blob, hoping it's going to electrocute the Blob. Which is what I meant about, here we go. That's a matte painting. Here's where he shoots it. And of course, it's an animated effect, which is totally fine. And
heck of a shot.
Absolutely.
No, and heck of an actor right there on the left. Oh boy.
Yeah, he looks pretty wooden. That's for sure, man.
That's the chief of the fire department. And what does he look like? 22?
He looks like.
It's like, come on. I know all those extras they could have pulled and got somebody a little older.
You think so? Especially when he can't act.
Or if they wanted a younger guy, get that smokers, that make him look a lot older.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, that's like Steve McQueen. That's why he looks so much older. He was already a chain smoker at this point. But this is the part that I was mentioning that I didn't realize when I was younger. He says, anyway, not enough oxygen in there to keep the fire going for 10 minutes. So they're assuming, and they're saying, and you could see the diner glowing from the inside. So apparently the diner is on fire caused by the electrical wires, and that they're going to suffocate downstairs. And I didn't realize all this went over my head when I was a kid. I never realized it, but down here, down in the basement or in the cellar, they realize they're going to die, and they think their time is up, and that's why the little boy is comforting, and she tells the little boy just to go to sleep. And I thought that was pretty powerful for a 1950s movie. Like I said, when I was a kid, I never caught that part. Miniature.
Yeah, it's really dark. Poignant.
Yep. See, now
Yeah, I guess
they're
it
trying to
does
say
have
that they're not afraid.
does have its moments, I guess, this film, doesn't it?
Yeah. So you lay your head down and try to go to sleep, and it's like, who the hell can sleep during a time like this?
Dude, my mind immediately flashed that scene in the Titanic where the kids are like, the mom's laying the kids down to sleep, and you're just like, what the fuck? Anyways, moving on.
Right. Never mind, kids, that the ship is sinking. Go to sleep now. Sweet dreams.
That's right. Be like, no, I'm going to read you a bedtime story, and I'm going to get the fuck out of it. I mean, we're all going to...
Right.
Yeah, anyways.
Here, in fact, here's the book. You guys read it to each other. I'm out of here.
Yeah, put the kids to sleep so you can get to the lifeboat yourself, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Selfish,
Here's
selfish
where
parents.
the blob starts to sneak into the cellar, and they blast it with a fire extinguisher, and that's when Steve notices that it backs off.
Ah.
So he shoots it. So the fire extinguisher, that's the secret. But I hope these days we don't run into any blobs. They don't use CO2 in fire extinguishers anymore.
Yeah, I remember that now. That was its weakness, wasn't it?
Right. And remember now, this is supposed to take place on the July evening. So this is a summer night. So they really got that thing down cold. And now they're asking everybody in town where they get some fire extinguishers. And the principal says he knows there's a bunch over at the high school.
Yeah, just think of that thing all crashed in Minnesota. We wouldn't have had a movie.
Well, that's true. And here, this scene was actually filmed at an elementary school, which still stands. I doubt it looks the same, but yeah, it was shot at an elementary school. And then it's funny, the principal is the one that picks up the rock and smashes the window.
That's pretty cool.
He looks at everybody first. Now, you didn't see this.
Mhm. You know, all those kids would have been eager to throw the rock through the window.
There would have been a whole bunch of rocks flying through that window, right?
They're probably mad that he actually is the one that got to throw it. But maybe he was excited to throw the rock through the school window, too.
It would have been a nice
There's an alternate scene where it's just like, go ahead, Pop.
I was just going to say it would have been a nice touch if one of the kids said, hey, can I throw that, Mr. Johnson? Or whatever. Let's start with the one in your office. And here's now, of course, we didn't get the exact scene where the blob moved off the diner, but we're assuming that it did while they were attacking it, and they were able to escape the cellar. And now is where they're establishing off camera, of course, that he was able to call the state patrol in and have them come in to help. And they're going to bring in a big old helicopter, and they're going to fly this thing off into Antarctica.
Now, what we didn't get to see is that inside, while they were, there's the phone that's off the hook that they can somehow hear through the raging fire that CO2 works while Steve is screaming from the basement.
Yes, exactly. He was screaming from the basement for them to try CO2, try the CO2, and they could hear it.
Right? Like there's, yeah. Felt like I'd point that out.
What happened? And what happened to the fire in the diner?
Well, yeah, I was kind of wondering that myself a minute ago. Like, it looks kind of dark in there. I don't see much fire.
Nope. And we get some stock footage of them dropping a crate into the Antarctica. And we get the end. which leaves it open for a sequel, which doesn't come for another over 10 years when we get the Return of the Blob and Son of the Blob, starring and directed, written by Larry Hagman. Extremely
There's
bad movie.
actually
Don't go looking for it.
a Son of the Blob. That's hilarious.
Return of the Blob and Son of the Blob.
I can see Return, but some scenes stretching it a bit.
Yeah, and I was mentioning earlier, they got increasingly more comedic. They were low budget. And by the time they showed the Larry Hagman one in the 70s, it was really, really, really bad.
You know, you're telling me not to go looking for it. I'm going to be looking for it now.
Well, you might have to sail the high seas because I don't think you're going to find them on DVD or Blu-ray, or definitely not in streaming services.
It sounds like it could be a cringe stock worthy film, actually, Gorilla.
It would be good for his cringe stock. Oh, here we go. Beware of the Blob, 1972. That's the one done by Larry Hagman. And it stars Robert Walker Jr., who played Charlie X on Star Trek.
Oh, geez. That sounds worthwhile right there. Oh, that sounds weird.
Yeah, this is the one that's really low budget. Yeah, director and Larry Hagman. And of course, it's Larry Hagman. I wish I could show this, but I don't want to get a copyright strike. But Larry Hagman wrote Beware the Blob, 1972, and because he wrote it, he had a substantially large role in the movie. What do you know? You are there. Can I pause it? Yeah, I can pause it.
It's on that screen.
Here we go. I'm going to share this here. I had to stop the trailer because otherwise I want to get a copyright strike. Yeah, but this is the one that was written by Larry Hagman. Very bad. Like I said, it's more of a comedy. A technician brings a frozen specimen of the original Blob back from the North Pole. Oh God, it is a stretch. When his wife accidentally defrosts the thing, it terrorizes the populace, including the local hippies, kittens, and bowlers. That tells you about how low budget it is. And you can tell by the film quality.
So wait, it attacks a bunch of hippies? What's the problem?
Exactly. And there's Robert Walker Jr. on the left, the guy who played Charlie X. Oh, Shelley Berman, man, what a washed it has been. And there's Larry Hagman, young hobo. Poor Carol Lindley. I forgot she was in this. A lot of has-beens. My goodness. Danny Goldman has been. Dick Van Patten, super has been. Yeah, but that's the one. That would be good if you're cringe stock there, Gorilla, if you can get your hands on it. I do recommend it for that type of show.
That shouldn't be too much.
I'm not going to recommend it. I won't. If you can find it, that is.
Yeah, I'm just taking a quick browse on YouTube here, and I don't see anything popping up. I see lots of little bits like trailers and stuff, but nothing of the entire film.
Yeah, I have it on my server. It took me a long time to find it. And it's not a very good copy, but it's not easy to find.
Yeah, well, some of these obscure movies, I mean, even if you can find a mediocre copy,
right, it was
still worth watching.
And considering it was Larry Hagman's involvement in 1972, it was after I Dream of Jeannie, but before Dallas.
Okay.
Okay, how are we doing on the chat? Looks like we're almost caught up.
Yeah, just two. The guy next to the fireman looks like Biff Tannen.
From Back to the Future.
Kind of.
And Scurvy says, I keep a grocery list on my phone. I just had an eggnog.
Nice.
So, just like during my stream on Lost in Space, I tongue-tied. I was a little late starting the stream, and I didn't get a chance to put the poll. I usually put a poll in the chat for everyone to vote. But if you're still around and you're listening, please vote in the chat. Give us your rating of what you thought about this movie or our coverage of this movie. And I'll go around here and I'll let everybody on the. Yeah, it's 9:00 my time, so we got through this pretty quick. 2.5 hours. That's not bad. That's record time.
Yeah, we did awesome because I don't think. Well, we'll see at the end after everyone's ratings, but no, I don't think anyone was too thrilled with this film. That's why we're able to breeze through it so fast. We didn't have a bunch of additional commentary.
And we loosely stayed on track, so yeah, but not too bad. Yeah, and Gorilla, tell us your grade of this movie and about your channel.
Well, this is one of those movies. It's just like a quick. The kids are asleep. Let's have a quickie there. It's a nice, fast-paced movie. There, none of this extra foreplay. Yeah, there's a little bit of repetitive dialogue that could probably be got, but there wasn't all that extra little foreplay and all that stuff. Straight to the point, and it's done. We're good. It had quite a few moments that made me laugh there. As good as fast paced. It made the hour and a half between end of break and go good. Jill starting her stream there go by real fast. I'm gonna give it an A.
Very cool. And tell us about your channel.
Well, there's gonna be a lot of things on hold for the next couple weeks because we got a lot of stuff going on with Cub Scouts here. So I putting Justified on hold and Babylon 5 on hold for a couple weeks there, and possibly the Waltons, but I will still have Sunday Cinema. But I might have to delay the Waltons a couple weeks too, because we gotta between popcorn sales, we got den meetings, we got planned activities with Cub Scouts there. Then we got the end of the popcorn sales ceremonies there. So we got a lot of stuff to do. So I'm going to put a lot of stuff on hold.
Okay, I definitely understand that. The family comes first.
Yeah.
All right, and my good friend Nemesis of Edens, what would be your rating for this movie? And tell us about your channel.
Sorry, you caught me chain smoking.
Sorry about that. I apologize.
Oh, it's all good. C+, it's a lot of tropes started with this movie. The technical effects are really good. They were the highlight for sure. Anytime the Blob was on screen, whether it was through miniature work, the silicone actual base, or whatever, I was happy. But I'm the complete opposite of Gorilla. I did not find this fast paced. I found this it didn't drag on. There wasn't much to it. I found the teenagers in quotation marks, to be annoying and not well acted, generally speaking. It was a slog to get through for the most part. There was not a lot of action. A lot of the drama and kills were off screen, which once again, I don't need to be shown a bunch of gore, but I understand through budget limitations that this is why we had things the way they are. It just doesn't do this concept justice when it's oh no, he's being eaten off screen. How horrifying. And you get that for the whole movie. Yeah, it's...
Well,
the creature effects are the best standout part.
Right, but you have to admit they make up for that in the sequel, which we'll be covering.
Oh my god, dude! There's no comparison between this movie and the sequel. The sequel is basically just a reboot of this film. There are so many different, so many aspects taken and just done so much better. This laid the groundwork for the 80s Blob, and without this movie, we wouldn't have that movie. So I am thankful for what this is. It's just, I don't know.
Right. One in comparison I want to make for anybody out there if you have not seen the remake from '88, was everything that Nemesis just mentioned that happened off screen in this movie is on screen in the '88 version, and some.
And it's all done with mostly practical effects, and it's done amazingly. It is so good, and it is fucking brutal. It is awesome. I'm so looking forward to it.
I would say all practical effects. We'll cover that when we get there. But I don't think they were using CGI back in the 80s. Not like that.
No, it would have just been touch-ups and whatnot, right? There might have been little scenes here and there that I think or maybe it was done with like, but we'll see. Like once again, it wasn't just, yeah. It's if you haven't seen the '80s Blob, watch that. Don't watch this one. Like
Right.
it's
Right,
like it's my comparison is like Evil Dead versus Evil Dead 2. You don't really need to see the first Evil Dead. You can watch Evil Dead 2, and it is done better.
Well, but there is a slight difference. Evil Dead is a straight up horror movie. Evil Dead 2 is comedy / horror.
This is
So,
true.
yeah,
This is
you
very
do-
true.
Right. You do get a retelling of Evil Dead, but the horror is for the most part removed.
That's actually a really good aspect. Okay, fair enough, Pop. Fair enough.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I would
so
still say you need to
not the
watch
greatest analogy, but
No, but it's fine. But I just think that I don't know, but in my opinion, there's still justification for the first Evil Dead because I can always appreciate when a movie is taking itself seriously and it's full on horror, and they do it correctly without you laughing at them because they failed. So anytime we can get, and especially these days, it's hard to do that. Is there anything you'd like to share about your channel, Nemesis?
oh, not really. I mean, I do gaming and whatnot. They've just added a new format into Yu-Gi-Oh, so I have to figure out how to do that. And I might be doing some gameplay footage of that. Yeah, I'll try and be uploading more frequently than I have been, and I would love to have you and as a subscriber if you haven't already.
Yes, everybody, check out Nemesis of Edens channel. Hopefully, have you guys noticed has the Stream Elements bot been working? Has it been posting the links?
Yeah.
Honestly,
I think it was.
I wasn't looking at the chat much tonight, so I couldn't tell you.
I hope it has.
Blacker Nemesis.
Yeah, there
But-
it is. Okay, there's a link for Hungry Boys channel. So okay, yeah, I just want to make sure because it seemed to be really slow getting started, and I want to make sure that everybody's channels are promoted. If you did not see your channel promoted, please let me know. I'm on Twitter, PC Curator, all lowercase, all together, no capital letters, no spaces. Message me and let me know, and I'll add you so that your channel gets plugged. PvP, tell us what do you think about this movie and about your channel if you'd like.
I think I pretty much agree with Nemesis analysis. I give it a C plus. Probably just because it's early Steve McQueen, and even though I don't think he's actually that good in the movie, it is kind of like one of the movies that was it his first film? I can't remember now, but I know it was early on, right in his career.
When I'm reading, it was his first movie.
Yeah, so it's like I'll give it.
And him and the director of the movie, him and the director did not get along for this movie at all.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Right. He was slated because this director went on to do the 4D Man, and McQueen was slated to do that movie, but because they had such a hard time working together, that's why he was replaced by Robert Lansing.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I thought it's an okay movie. I guess the blob effects are pretty much the highlight of it, really. And I think it is, a lot of draggy scenes, I mean, even though it's a short movie, they probably still could have cut another 10 minutes out of it, and it wouldn't have hurt the damn thing, really.
Or 10 or 20.
Yeah, and the cast, nothing really, nobody in the cast actually seems to stand out, really. Even McQueen's given a pretty flat performance, pretty much by the book, nothing too exciting. Yeah, actually, when you look at this film, it's hard to believe how decent an actor he actually became over the following decades and made some really classic films. But yeah, it's just story-wise mediocre. The dialogue sometimes is just atrocious and boring as hell. So I could have lived without some of that stuff. The cast, once again, pretty much unremarkable. Just nothing really great about the film other than the blob effects, which pretty much make the film worth watching, I suppose. But yeah, I couldn't rate it any higher than C plus.
All right, I appreciate that. Anything about your
Yeah.
channel you want to share?
Yeah, not much. Still doing the music playlist, though I haven't been doing much lately. Maybe I'll add some more stuff this coming weekend if I have the time. But yeah, nothing much going on really. So that's pretty much it, I guess.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And okay, I'll make mine quick. I all I can do is pretty much repeat what you guys said. I think the special effects are what stand out, and I think it's what made the movie famous and what it is today. Not sure if it was necessarily the casting. The only one who really went on to do much bigger things was Steve McQueen, and I think from his perspective, the reason why his acting turned out the way it did is, I mean, because like I said, behind the scenes, he didn't think this movie was going to go anywhere. That's why when they offered him, his salary or as a percentage of the movie, he took the salary. So I think that shows in his performance. I think that's why he didn't really give it his all and why it seemed kind of shallow like it did. I think he could have showed a little bit more emotion. I mean, because this is a movie where you're supposed to be ratcheting up the tension, so they should have had the actors, the slash villagers, the townspeople, acting more and more paranoid as the movie progressed. But they always seemed to be like they were sleeping their way through it right up to the very end. But I'm not going to knock it for that. Like I said, excuse me. Hold on a sec. I got to sneeze. Well, that's what I get for giving it a bad review. But no, I'm just kidding. But so I'm going to give the movie. I'll give the movie a B. It's not an A, but it's not a C. There's movies that fall into those categories, but it's a classic. And this is what I would determine. I remember Gorilla asked me last, or somebody did on a stream, what's a cult classic? And this is what would be considered as a cult classic. And I think it's helped would boost that. Also, was the remake in '88, which brought this one back to the limelight. By the way, in 1977, Steve McQueen starred in an Irvin Allen movie called The Towering Inferno, starring Steve McQueen and Paul Newman. And their egos battled it out all through that movie off screen, those two actors. They were extremely jealous of each other on who got the most screen time and who got top billing. But 20th Century Fox, who put out that movie, decided to cash in on it because it was such a success at the time. This is 1977, remember. The Towering Inferno was such a success that they re-released the Blob out to theaters at the same time as a double feature at the drive-ins. So that was another thing that happened that kind of helped boost the Blob in the public eye. It kind of reminded them, and because it had been almost forgotten at that point. But I thought it was good. So for what it's done, and for what a lot of the tropes like we've spoken about were brought heavily for other movies. I can go down the list of all the different movies that I can recognize that came from this. So like I said, I'll give it a B, a solid B.
Wait. Shut the front door. You mean to tell me I'm the nicest one on this whole live stream tonight?
Yeah, you are.
Well, because you said it was just enough time to get laid. You're like... And
yeah, I was surprised that Gorilla gave it an A+. That was a little bit of a shock, actually.
And a bit of a side note worth mentioning that I definitely have to mention, because it's such a rarity these days, is I actually watched a movie that is relatively new, 2022, and it is a fantastic horror movie. And it's rare these days that I can recommend anything. So look for it on the high seas, guys. It's called Feed Me. And I'd like to be able to cover it on this stream eventually, but if I do, I have a feeling it might be too much for Gorilla. Maybe PvP, I don't know.
No, is it that gory?
I would say it's one of the goriest movies I've ever seen, which for me really impressed me. I was very impressed. All practical effects, everything.
Oh well, that's always has potential, I guess. Yeah. But...
Yeah, that's what should be enough to warm your heart.
Well, I don't mind gore if it's got a certain, if it's so over the top that I know, I just can tell it's not real, right? Because we've watched some movies on here that have been pretty gory, and they've been fun. I enjoyed them. But if it gets too realistic, where they start ripping people apart and it's just too close to reality, I just get squeamish at that point. So yeah. So
see, and I don't mind gore if it's done tastefully, like in its. So I would certainly be willing to check out Feed Me.
Well, I'll give you the description. Following the death of his wife, a broken man spirals into an abyss of night terrors and depression, finds himself in the home of a deranged cannibal who convinces him to take his own life in the most horrific way imaginable.
Does
So
he
this guy,
boil himself to death in a soup or bake himself in an oven? How does he die? There you see. There you go. Questions
well,
that need to
I
be
can,
answered. We have to go see that movie.
I can give it. I can give away some without spoiling it. So there's a guy who's depressed because I think it was a girlfriend or a daughter. I wasn't focusing on that, obviously. Anyway, she ends up dying from and just what do you call it, where they starve themselves to death because they're so vain they think
Anorexia.
that's it. So she dies from anorexia. This guy is broken up and he's depressed, and somehow he runs across this guy who's a cannibal, admitted cannibal. The guy tells everybody pretty much, and he's super creep. He reminds me of Jeffrey Dahmer. But these two unusual guys are like polar opposites, strike up a friendship. And he goes to live with the cannibal, and then they come up with an agreement that the cannibal can slowly eat him
Oh God.
on camera.
I think I might give this a pass, actually, Bob.
Well, I
It
probably
doesn't
already
sound
gave
like a
away
whole
too
lot of
much.
fun. I'll put it that way.
Oh, I had a blast watching it. It was so refreshing because I haven't seen a movie this good in a long time.
God. Sounds grim.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but like,
But if you can see it. Go ahead.
You know what's really scary, though, guys? I remember, excuse me. Oh, I had to clear my throat there. I remember maybe, I don't know, 10 years back reading somewhere that there was an incident that actually happened like this where there was a serial killer cannibal like Dahmer, and he basically invited this guy over for dinner. Oh, excuse me. And basically the guy ended up agreeing to be, his next meal. So I do think there's probably an actual factual story somewhere where they might have based
Possible.
the idea for this song. Yeah, I
well,
remember
yeah, that
reading it at the time.
there's yeah, that's they met up on the Cannibal Cafe. There was two of them. It was over in Germany. Like, yeah, that's a true story. That actually happened.
No,
And
I
then
actually
Um,
remember reading about it. That there was something about that this was actually an incident. I mean,
Yeah, and
maybe it
I
was all
think
bullshit. I don't know, but
now that I remember, I think at the beginning of Feed Me, there are credits on the screen that say it's based on a true story.
yeah, I did remember reading somewhere about it. I'm not sure the news source, but yeah, and it doesn't surprise me. Like, let's face it, often the real world is a lot weirder than the fictional one. So
But this, and I want to stipulate what made this enjoyable because it's a comedy as well, and it is over the top
Oh,
funny, laugh out loud.
really,
Yes.
hmm.
So it's everything you can imagine. Plus, it had some really good underlying dark humor.
Huh?
So I highly recommend it. And I was debating while watching it. It's like, well, should I show this on my horror sci-fi? But I have a feeling we probably won't have that many people viewing. I don't want to drive people away, but this is what my whole stream was founded on, were movies like this.
Yeah. Well, I don't
Because
know.
I mean, think about it. What we've been showing is relatively tame.
Oh hell yeah, a lot of well, we were watching a lot of the 50s, 60s classics, so yeah, that's going to be tame by comparison.
Right. I'd say, what would you guys say the most goriest things we've shown probably is the Evil Dead movies, I guess, right?
100%.
Yeah, they're up there, I guess.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of gore
Well, we
movies.
haven't even shown anything like we haven't shown anything with like Terrifier 2 levels of gore. Like, we haven't shown anything with gore
Right, we've
equal to
mentioned it,
this.
but
So
yeah, we've mentioned it, but we haven't actually done it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll show this one sooner than later.
Yeah, you
That way
haven't
it'll
shown
give,
anything.
and I'll put a link out there where you guys. I don't know if it's on Soap Today or one of those sites that Gorilla uses yet. If not, I have a copy. We can do a watch party.
That'd be cool. I'd be willing to give it a chance. I mean, if I get too grossed out, I might leave early, but I'd be willing to give it a chance, I suppose.
Well, I'd say for artistic value, it's an excellent movie. I was highly surprised. It was much better than I expected.
Well, I try and keep an open mind, so I'm willing to give anything a chance, even though, as I say, if it grosses me out too much, I might just leave. But
Okay, well, while we're at it, I'm going to show you the source where I found out. This guy, I have been a sub of his for more than 10 years. And I check out. He reviews horror movies, and I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. And I highly recommend him. Every Halloween, he has a countdown of the top 30, actually 60. Each day he'll have two movies. He'll have the main one that he wants to talk about, and then he has another one that he says worth mentioning. And I'm going to show you that real quick because I highly recommend you guys check it out and sub to his channel. Especially if you like horror movies, it's like absolutely. Because this is where I get a lot of my recommendations from. And that's him right there. M.L. Miller. He's got 1.39 thousand, it's almost 1.4 thousand. But there you can see he has countdowns right there. So like he covers the VHS movies, and he just covered the Renfield movie with Nicolas Cage right there the other day. So if you ever want to look for some fresh horror movies, even the old stuff like there, you see he's doing that Mad Love with Peter Lorre. And a lot of them are bad movies. He'll do bad movies, and he'll say when it's a bad movie. But he'll also say when it's low budget. He'll point out when it's found footage, all the different kinds. But it's an excellent channel, and I highly recommend M.L. Miller. Like I said, I've been a sub for at least 10 years to his channel. So for those of you out there, I recommend. Okay, so did you guys vote in the chat? Anybody vote in the chat what they thought about the Blob? I know we the panel rated it.
All right, I'll catch up on chat while you're getting the poll ready.
Well, it's too late to put the poll. Most people are gone by now. I should have put it up at the beginning of the stream.
Oh, Scurvy here says, Girl likes a cinematic quickie.
You would have been, Gorilla, you would have been perfect at the drive-in. That would have been right up your cup of tea. Just hop in the back seat and then back to the front as soon as you're done.
Yeah. Well, it depends how good the movie is.
That reminds me. Thank you. That's a good one because I went on a date to see Return of the Living Dead, and she wanted to make out, and I didn't want to. It was such a good movie. I was like, well, watch the movie. We'll do it after. Watch the movie. Needless to say, we never did it after. She was all pissed. It was such a good movie. I couldn't do it. I thought it was just going to be another average zombie movie, but Return of the Living Dead is such a good movie.
It's kind of interesting that she actually got turned on by watching the zombies. I wanted to do it during the film.
No, the thing is, she didn't want to watch the zombies and the gore. She wanted to make out to not look at that stuff.
Oh, I see. Oh, well.
Right, and I wanted to make out too because the old trope where they say, well, maybe they'll get all huggy, they're a scary movie and all that. That's what I was thinking. But that is such a good movie. I just got so enthralled watching the movie. I kept telling her, wait till the movie's over. Wait. And she got pissed.
Oh, well.
Sat with her arms folded with a scowl on her face the whole time. I still remember.
Yeah. And Scurry here says, there was a true story of a German man who put out an ad for someone he could eat, and someone voluntarily did it.
That sounds like what Nemesis was talking about.
Yeah. On the Cannibal Cafe.
I remember reading about that, yeah.
Well, and also another movie that along the same the same lines as that. I don't know if any of you guys remember, but there was a true story where a woman hit a homeless man with her car. He got stuck in the windshield, and she drove him home, didn't tell anybody, and kept him in the garage where he slowly died for days.
Oh, God.
You guys remember?
I do remember that story, yeah.
Well, they turned that into a great movie called Stuck, directed by Stuart Gordon, the same guy who did the Reanimator movies. And I'll be covering that on our stream here one of these nights.
Cool.
All right, so I guess we're all caught up in the chat. I know relatively nice, about a little short of going on 3 hours. I appreciate everybody, and once again, I'm sorry I was a half hour late. I promise, and I assure you, next week when we cover Jurassic Park, I will be on time. And we have our tomorrow. Gorilla, are you going to be available for Gilligan's Island tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be home by then.
Great, and I swear I'll be there. I think it's been a month at least since we've done Gilligan's Island, so I've got to get back on that.
Yeah.
Back to the Castaways. We got to find out what happened to the Castaways. Damn it! And
Well,
besides,
Mary gets pregnant. Mr. Hall accidentally burnt all his money there. The professor
accidentally.
acid on himself. He died.
This is how crapped her pants.
Oh boy.
Yep. Tomorrow, Gilligan's Island, and then Saturday we should be back with the rumblings from the lab.
Yeah. Oh, we got 3 more chats real quick.
Thank you.
Greg says, cheers. Which wine goes with German? I believe a good dandelion wine goes with that. And then the Phantom Boomer Explorers, welcome. It says the castaways got eaten by the blob. Alrighty, that's all of them.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for you coming and spending time with us tonight on the stream. I know it was a shorter stream, but it was a shorter movie. The movie was only like 83 minutes, which kind of helped time breeze by. And especially thank you most of all to everybody on the panel for helping me get through this. I know it's not necessarily like too much of a chore. I mean, the movie was okay, but I just want to cover this before we cover the remake, so that way I can establish the ground. Everybody would understand. For those that had not seen this version yet. And I know it's late for some of you guys. Drill, I know it's going on 11:30, so I don't want to keep you guys up late because I know you guys have to work tomorrow. And like I usually say, drive safe and take care of the family. I know there's a lot of people that have issues going on right now, which is not good, and we don't really need. But yeah, stay close to someone you love, and take care of yourselves, everybody. And if you like what you saw, consider hitting the subscribe button and the like button, maybe notification button, and also check out the channels to my wonderful co-panelists here. You'll be glad you did. We've got a lot of wonderful content to share. So with that, have a fantastic night. We're about 60 seconds off from 3 hours. I'm not a person that watches the clock. I know some people do. During the stream, they'll say, and we're at 3 hours, and we're at 4 hours. I don't do that. I don't watch the clock. So I'm ready when I'm ready to shut up. So have a good night, everybody. Take care, and I will see you hopefully on Gilligan's Island tomorrow.